Chapter 538. Jian Daozi. The three sword Dao geniuses who were about to fight were shocked when they saw Jian Daozi. They were top-notch geniuses, but there was still a gap between them and a taboo genius like Jian Daozi. I didn't expect this guy to be here. This is going to be troublesome. The sword Dao geniuses looked at Jian Daozi with fear in their eyes. Jian Daozi looked at Wang Su and the others with an indifferent expression, as if he was looking at a few ants. I want this desolate yuan sword grass, Jian Daozi said lightly. His attitude showed that he didn't care about the sword Dao geniuses at all. In fact, as the exquisite nine orifices sword heart and the most dazzling genius in the Emperor's path of sword Dao, he indeed didn't care about the other sword Dao geniuses. Jian Daozi, you want this desolate yuan sword grass just like that? Aren't you being a little overbearing? Qin Feng couldn't help but ask. When Jian Daozi heard this, he focused his sword finger and casually slashed out. A golden sword qi with a piercingly cold sword-based Daoist rhyme instantly locked onto Qin Feng. Qin Feng's pupils shrank. He growled and slashed out with his sword, but he was forced back. The hand holding the sword trembled uncontrollably, and the webbing between his thumb and forefinger was torn open and bleeding. You can't even take a single slash from me, and you still have the nerve to yell here? Jian Daozi said lightly. Sword qi circulated around him, making him look like a sword god. Jian Changfeng, who had entered the Thousand Wonders Grotto Heaven with Jian Daozi, couldn't help but be shocked. Just a clone already possessed such strength. Jian Daozi was indeed a taboo genius. He was indeed terrifying. In terms of sword Dao, perhaps only his master could surpass him. Jian Daozi, if my clan brother was here, he wouldn't let you act so presumptuously. Qin Feng couldn't defeat Jian Daozi, so he used the Qin clan's taboo genius in an attempt to regain some face. Jian Daozi's eyes flickered with a strange look. Qin Tianchen? He didn't come to the Thousand Wonders Grotto Heaven? My clan brother is in seclusion. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the chance to strut around. Since Qin Tianchen isn't here, where do you get the courage to speak to me like this? Jian Daozi snorted and slashed out with his sword again. The sword qi swept out again like a storm. Qin Feng was engulfed by the storm. He bellowed and brandished the long sword in his hand, sending out sword qi to defend against the storm. However, the effect was minimal. The sword qi storm grew denser and fiercer. Finally, Qin Feng was closed in by countless rays of sword qi as more and more sword qi appeared on his body. Not long later, Qin Feng's body was covered with dozens of deep wounds, and he fell to the ground, dripping with blood. When the surrounding sword cultivators saw this, they looked at Jian Daozi with respect in their eyes. He could casually crush a top prodigy. Such battle prowess was indeed worthy of being a forbidden prodigy. Damn it! Qin Feng looked up at Jian Daozi with fear in his eyes. He had never imagined that the difference in strength between him and Jian Daozi would be so great. Forbidden prodigies and other prodigies were on two completely different levels. For Qin Tianchen's sake, I'll spare your life. Jian Daozi looked at Qin Feng and said. Then he looked around coldly. Is there anyone else who wants to snatch the Desolation Essence sword grass from me? No one dared to answer. The strength that Jian Daozi had displayed had shocked everyone present. The exquisite nine orifices sword heart's amplification of the sword Dao is too great, and it can even suppress sword cultivators. We are no match for him. As long as we are sword cultivators, we will naturally be suppressed by Jian Daozi. Jian Daozi's strength is unrivaled among the younger generation, apart from the forbidden prodigies. If he gets his hands on the Desolation Essence sword grass, I wonder how strong he will become. There is a high chance that he will become an emperor in this era. The crowd thought to themselves. Jian Daozi had almost single-handedly suppressed all the sword cultivators on the emperor's path. Jian Daozi looked around, and when he saw that no one dared to resist him, he looked at the Desolation Essence swordgrass not far away. This item was extremely useful to him, especially to this clone of his. He knew that this body of his was only a clone and could not use the full power of the exquisite nine orifices sword heart. If he could refine the Desolation Essence swordgrass, his clone would have the Desolation Essence sword body. Coupled with the Taoist rhymes of the exquisite nine orifices sword heart, the clone's strength would be comparable to the main body. Jiandaozi's eyes flashed with excitement when he thought of this, and he raised his hand to grab the Desolation Essence swordgrass. You can't touch it. At that moment, a leisurely voice came from the void. Then, an extremely tyrannical aura that was even more terrifying than Jiandaozi's swept over the sky. Under this aura, all the swordsmen could not help but let their swords fly out of their hands and float in the air, as if they were facing a myriad of blades. This aura, could it be? Jiandaozi seemed to have thought of something, and his deep eyes looked into the distance. The crowd also looked toward the source of the aura. They saw a white-robed, black-haired young man slowly walking toward them. The newcomer was handsome and had the bearing of a celestial being. Jiandaozi snorted coldly when he saw the newcomer. How dare you play around with your sword Dao in front of me? You've overestimated yourself. The sword-based Taoist rhyme that erupted from his body shrouded the entire area, attempting to control the longswords that were surrounding Chu Kuangren. However, no matter how much he channeled his Taoist rhyme, the longswords that were surrounding Chu Kuangren did not budge an inch. The crowd gulped as they watched. Jiandaozi is being suppressed by someone in terms of sword Dao. My goodness, where did this person come from? How can he have such a powerful sword Dao? I can't imagine. Based on what everyone knew, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was the strongest constitution for the way of the sword. Jiandaozi, who possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and had been heavily nurtured by the sword clan, should have been unparalleled in the way of the sword. Even the older generation of sword cultivators would find it difficult to suppress him in terms of sword Dao. However, that perception had been shattered by Chu Kuangren. Even among the younger generation, Jiandaozi's sword Dao cultivation was not invincible. There was someone who was even more brilliant than him. Master. Jian Chongfeng stared at Chu Kuangren, who was facing the 10,000 swords attack with a hint of passion that was hard to detect in his eyes. However, he quickly hid it well. Jiandaozi's attention was fully focused on Chu Kuangren, so he did not notice Jian Chongfeng's strange reaction. This person's sword-based Taoist rhyme has reached such a level. Jiandaozi looked at Chu Kuangren with a serious expression. He knew that Chu Kuangren possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, but even if they both had the same exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, there would still be a difference in strength. Jiandaozi was heavily nurtured by the swordsman, and he had access to countless sword Dao resources ever since he began his cultivation. Even if a sky pride from the outside world had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, how could he be compared to him? Hence, Jiandaozi had never taken Chu Kuangren seriously. However, he had no choice but to take Chu Kuangren seriously now. Is this the extent of your exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? Or could it be that this clone of yours doesn't allow you to unleash your full strength? Chu Kuangren looked at Jiandaozi with a playful look on his face. Upon hearing that, Jiandaozi's eyes narrowed. He could not believe that Chu Kuangren had exposed his identity as a clone. Chapter 539. It seems that not only are you skilled in swordsmanship, but you also have good eyesight. I can't believe you can tell that this body of mine is just a clone. Jiandaozi said indifferently. The method of refining this avatar of his was extremely brilliant, and he had spent countless resources to create it. It looked no different from a normal person, and it could even cultivate and progress like a cultivator. Even if an emperor came in person, they would not be able to see the slightest flaw. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to see through him. The exchange between Chu Kuangren and Jiandaozi shocked the sword cultivators present, especially Qin Feng, who was in disbelief. A clone. The Jiandaozi in front of him was just a clone. However, this clone had been able to defeat him with a wave of his hand. Just how powerful was Jiandaozi's true self? Chu Kuangren looked at Jiandaozi and said, I might be interested if you were here in your real body, but a clone? How boring. After that, Chu Kuangren ignored him and walked towards the Desolation Essence swordgrass. Even if it's just a clone, I, Jiandaozi, am not someone that can be underestimated. Chu Kuangren, don't be too arrogant. Jiandaozi snorted and slashed out with his sword. A violent sword chi swept towards Chu Kuangren like a hurricane. However, Chu Kuangren did not even look at it. Instead, he formed a sword finger and casually slashed it. A purple sword ray instantly pierced through the night sky like a meteor. Instantly, the tempest of sword chi was slashed apart by the finger. The violet sword light slammed into Jian Daozi, sending him flying back nearly 300 meters. He slammed into the ground like a meteor, causing a huge crater to appear. Jian Daozi lay in the middle of the crater, looking bedraggled. There was a bone-deep sword wound on his body that almost sliced him in half. Copious amounts of blood gushed out from it. The crowd was dumbfounded when they saw that. Jian Daozi, who was almost invincible in swordsmanship, was defeated so easily. That scene was too shocking. How weak! Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly. He then ignored the sword chi from the Desolation Essence swordgrass and grabbed it before throwing it into his yin and yang ring. The Desolation Essence swordgrass was an emperor-grade supreme medicine that had a certain effect on him. The Desolation Essence sword body was secondary, but the sword chi could be improved. Sir Daoist, you're just a clone now. You're no match for Chu Kuangren. Please leave first. Jian Changfeng arrived in front of Jian Daozi and said, "All right." After witnessing Chu Kuangren's techniques, Jian Daozi nodded and left the scene with Jian Changfeng's help. Chu Kuangren chuckled as he watched Jian Daozi leave. "Jian Daozi, the game between you and me has just begun. So you're Chu Kuangren, the one who killed my brother Wang Tianting." At that moment, Wang Su looked at Chu Kuangren with an unfriendly gaze. "Wang Tianting, let me think about it. I think I've killed quite a lot of sky prides." Chu Kuangren was deep in thought. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched when they saw him like this. Wang Tianting could be considered a famous heaven's chosen one in the 9 heavens. He still wanted to think about it. How many prodigies did he kill? Oh, I remember now. There was such a person. Chu Kuangren nodded. Why? Do you want to avenge him? He looked at Wang Su and asked faintly. His gaze was as calm as water. Wang Su, on the other hand, felt a chill run down his spine when he heard that. He had no doubt that if he dared to say yes, he would face a sword chi that even Jian Daozi could not handle. No. Wang Su shook his head and took 2 steps back. Chu Kuangren ignored him when he heard that. Not far away, Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue caught up. They were not surprised when they found out that Chu Kuangren had obtained the Desolation Essence sword grass. Soon, the 3 of them left the scene. Looking at their backs as they left, Mo Yifan from the Divine Heaven Sword sect could not help but exclaim. Even someone as strong as Jian Daozi could not withstand a single move from him. His combat strength is almost unimaginable. I can't believe there's such a forbidden sky pride in the outside world. Humph, when the forbidden sky pride of the Wang family arrives, we'll definitely subdue him. Wang Su said coldly. The Wang family had its forbidden sky pride too. At another location, Jian Daozi and Jian Changfeng arrived at a cave in the Thousand Wonders Paradise. After consuming a precious medicinal pill, Jian Daozi went into closed-door meditation. After half a day, his injuries gradually recovered. A vicious look appeared on his face. Chu Kuangren, how dare you injure my clone to this extent? If it weren't for the golden pill of rejuvenation hidden in my body, this clone would have died here. D*M*. D*M*. Before this, the only reason he wanted to kill Chu Kuangren was because he did not want a second exquisite 9 orifices sword heart to appear in this world. Now, however, he wanted to kill Chu Kuangren because he hated him. After venting his hatred, Jian Daozi took a deep breath. This person's strength is indeed powerful. I'm afraid he's no weaker than my real self. It won't be easy to kill him. Now let's get the white spirit divine fruit from the Thousand Wonders Paradise first. With that fruit, I'll have a higher chance of ascending to the Emperor realm. Beside him, Jian Changfeng's eyes lit up when he heard that, but he quickly averted his gaze. Changfeng, you've worked hard to protect me. I'll give you this spirit fruit. Jian Daozi took out a spirit fruit and gave it to Jian Changfeng. Thank you, Master Daozi. Jian Changfeng accepted the spirit fruit excitedly. Jian Daozi's face revealed a look of disdain when he saw that. That spirit fruit was nothing to him, but it could be used to buy people's hearts. Master Daozi, I'll go patrol the surroundings to see if Chu Kuangren and the others have chased after us, Jian Changfeng said. All right. After leaving the cave, Jian Changfeng cast a seal around the surroundings to prevent spiritual thoughts from prying. Then he took out a communication compass. Master. Oh, the white spirit divine fruit? Chu Kuangren turned off the communication with Jian Changfeng with a look of surprise in his eyes. One of the legendary 10 great spirit fruits. Now this is interesting. There were countless supreme spirit fruits in this world. The 10 great spirit fruits were the 10 most revered spirit fruits by cultivators throughout the ages. Each of them had the ability to steal the fortune of the world. Although an emperor-grade treasure like the wilderness essence swordgrass was precious, it was still a distance away from the 10 great spirit fruits. The white spirit divine fruit was one of them. It was said that not only could this divine fruit increase one's cultivation level and improve one's aptitude, but it could also allow a cultivator to enter a higher state of enlightenment. According to the records, there was once an honorable realm cultivator who consumed the white spirit divine fruit and entered a state of enlightenment for 3 days and 3 nights. When he woke up, his understanding of the Tao was no weaker than an emperor's. Later on, he even found his own Tao and became an emperor in less than 100 years, dominating an entire era. That showed how powerful the white spirit divine fruit was. Even with the countless opportunities of fortune in the Thousand Wonders Grotto, the white spirit divine fruit was still very rare. I can't miss out on the white spirit divine fruit. Jian Daozi, you've really surprised me. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. It was easy for him to kill Jian Daozi, but so what? Killing an ant that posed no threat to him would not make him happy. Casting a long line to catch a big fish was the right way. Chapter 540. The opening of the Thousand Strange Grotto Heaven attracted many geniuses from the Emperor's Road. Even those forbidden geniuses who rarely showed themselves came to fight for the opportunity, just to have a little more hope of becoming an emperor when the emperor position appeared. Somewhere in the Thousand Strange Grotto Heaven. Roar! A furious roar rang out as a terrifying white behemoth covered in baleful energy chased after a female cultivator. The female cultivator wore a white dress. Her black hair draped over her shoulders, and her skin was smooth, giving off a cold feeling. Although she was being chased by the beast, there was no trace of fear on her face. It was not that she was confident, but that she was born without any emotions. I didn't expect the celestial ice-cold python to be so powerful. I was too careless. The female cultivator looked at the beast chasing after her, and murmured. The beast was a giant python, over 1,000 feet long. There was a crystal white horn on its head, and its snow-white scales gave off a chilling aura. Everywhere it went, a thick layer of frost formed on the ground. Roar! The celestial ice-cold python roared, and a large amount of chilling aura gushed out from its throat. Heavenly frost shield. The female cultivator shouted, and a large amount of chilling aura also came out of her body, forming an ice shield in front of her. But when the two came into contact, the ice shield shattered. Both were formed from chilling aura, but the celestial ice-cold python's chilling aura was undoubtedly more terrifying. It could actually freeze. A large amount of ice swept out, and the female cultivator was pushed back hundreds of feet. With her as the center, the surrounding 1,000 miles were all covered in chilling aura. Mountains, rivers, grass, trees, everything in the world was frozen in the blink of an eye. Everything in sight was silvery white, like a world of ice. The female cultivator's body was also covered in a layer of frost, but she used her spiritual energy to shake off the frost. Human genius, you are very powerful to be able to last so long against me. The celestial ice-cold python said coldly. It was a beast born in the Thousand Strange Grotto Heaven. After cultivating for so many years, it had already gained intelligence. Ice-cold python, I can give you some compensation, and this matter will be over. How about it? The female cultivator looked at the celestial ice-cold python, and said, you should die for coveting my horn. There is no way we can reconcile. Looks like I have no choice but to fight to the death. The female cultivator said softly, a look of determination in her eyes. Go to hell. The celestial ice-cold python opened its mouth and spat out a large amount of cold air, like a surging river of ice. The strength of this cold chi already rivaled that of a peak quasi-emperor. When the female cultivator saw this, An extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme appeared in her hand. The Taoist rhyme condensed into a white seal in the void and shot towards the cold air. Heavenly Wind Seal. The huge seal collided with the cold air, and the two forces collided. The heavenly wind seal was gradually frozen. The female cultivator also began to show signs of exhaustion. She raised her hand and condensed the spiritual power in her body again. Her eyes were shrouded in a layer of cold indifference. Supreme Forgetting Emotion Finger. With a point of his finger, a huge finger energy appeared out of thin air. That finger exuded a chill that seemed to be able to freeze one's heart. It wasn't a natural chill, but a chill that came from the heart. There was a loud explosion. The cold air was forcefully shattered by the finger energy, and it landed on the celestial ice-cold python's body. Amidst the explosion, a large number of snow-white scales shattered, and blood gushed out, dyeing the celestial ice-cold python's entire head red. I did it! Even though the female cultivator had an indifferent personality, she still couldn't help but show a hint of joy when she saw this. Roar! However, at that moment, the celestial ice-cold python roared into the sky, and an even more terrifying murderous aura was released along with the cold air. Be asterisk starred. How dare you hurt me? The celestial ice-cold python roared, and its bloodshot eyes stared coldly at the female cultivator. After receiving the female cultivator's most powerful attack, although it was injured, its aura was still extremely powerful and terrifying. His physical body is even more terrifying. The female cultivator said in surprise. One should know that the power of her finger was enough to kill a quasi-emperor, but it only made the celestial ice-cold python bleed a little. Such a powerful physical body was far beyond the scope of what the female cultivator could handle. Emperors, only emperor-level attacks can kill this celestial ice-cold python. The female cultivator said helplessly. At that moment, the enraged celestial ice-cold python had already launched an attack at her. It opened its mouth and pounced toward her, trying to swallow her whole. The female cultivator wanted to dodge, but she realized that the cold air around her had already frozen her feet. Looks like I'm going to die here today. It's a pity that I still have many things to do. In the face of death, the female cultivator's expression didn't change much, but her heart uncontrollably raced up. A strange emotion surged in her heart. Could this be fear? Was it the instinctive fear of death? Just as the female cultivator was about to be buried in the python's stomach, a sword light suddenly cut through the air. The sword light was like a meteor that cut through the sky, and it landed on the celestial ice-cold python's single horn. The single horn could be said to be the hardest part of the celestial ice-cold python's body, and the moment it collided with the sword light, there was a burst of dazzling sparks. The sparks flew, and then there was a crisp sound, as though something had cracked. The single horn had actually cracked from the sword chi. The celestial ice-cold python couldn't care less about the female cultivator anymore. With its single horn destroyed, it could not help but let out a shrill scream. Be asterisk starred. Who is it that dares to sneak an attack on me? The celestial ice-cold python roared as it looked around. From afar, a black-haired figure in a white robe was walking through the air towards it. The female cultivator looked over, and was momentarily dazed. She had seen all kinds of people since she was young, and that naturally included countless so-called handsome men. However, no matter who it was, none of them could make the female cultivator's emotions fluctuate. Now the female cultivator realized that her heart seemed to have skipped a beat. It was a little similar to how she felt when she was facing death, but it was also a little different. The female cultivator was a little confused. What kind of feeling was this? Could this be what her senior brothers and sisters in the sect meant by being moved? However, she didn't have much time to think about it. The person who had arrived, which was Chu Quangren, had already confronted the celestial ice-cold python. Human, how dare you sneak an attack on me? You're dead meat. Little snake, I've taken a fancy to that horn on your head. Give it to me, and I might spare your life. Chu Quangren said calmly. As for the female cultivator beside him, it was as if he had completely ignored her. No matter how beautiful she was not as attractive as the celestial ice-cold python before him. Another one who wants my single horn. Let's see if you're capable enough to take it. The celestial ice-cold python let out an angry roar. Its huge body trembled, and the single horn on its head emitted a white light. A large amount of cold chi escaped and covered half the sky. Then, countless ice spikes were shot towards Chu Kuangren like a storm. Looks like I'll have to take it by force. Chu Kuangren swung the descendant self sword in his hand, and a majestic sword chi poured out, enveloping the sky full of ice spikes. The countless ice spikes were shattered one by the sword ray. That attack alone had shocked the female cultivator, who was watching the battle from below. With such combat strength, which orthodoxy's forbidden sky pride is he from? Chapter 541. What a powerful sword chi. Chu Kuangren's sword chi surprised the female cultivator. She had seen some forbidden sky prides before, but very few of them had Chu Kuangren's combat strength. Just one strand of sword chi was not something an ordinary quasi-emperor could block. Which orthodoxy's forbidden sky pride is this guy from? While the female cultivator was still in shock, the battle between Chu Kuangren and the celestial frost python had already begun. The celestial frost python's combat strength was extremely powerful. It could be said to be the strongest wild beast Chu Kuangren had ever faced. Its combat strength was comparable to a top-notch boundary emperor, and its physical body was so tough that even a top-notch boundary emperor would have a hard time breaking through its defenses. However, to Chu Kuangren, this was not too difficult of a task. With the descendant self-sword in his hand, he unleashed wave after wave of sword chi that landed on the celestial frost python's body, leaving behind streaks of bloody wounds. Although the wounds were not deep enough to be fatal, the celestial frost python screamed in agony. B***starred human, I'm going to kill you. I will kill you. The enraged celestial frost python waved its body around and spewed out frosty chi. Everything within a 10,000-kilometer radius shook because of its rage. Countless rivers and forests were frozen by the frosty chi. Not long after, the 10,000-kilometer radius turned into a world of ice and snow. Everything withered, and there was no sign of life. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren wandered in the frosty chi with sword chi surrounding his body. No matter how angry the celestial frost python was, it could not hurt him at all. You better look up at the sky if you want to kill me. At that moment, Chu Kuangren suddenly said. In the sky, countless blue-veined patterns intertwined with each other, condensing into a huge rune that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Within the rune, there was an endless amount of lightning energy that surged and radiated with a terrifying heavenly might. It was the Emperor-grade Thunder Talisman. Is this power the heavenly tribulation? How can this be? How can anyone in this world master the power of heavenly tribulation? The python was a little confused. At that moment, a ferocious lightning dragon suddenly emerged from the giant Emperor-grade rune and charged towards the celestial frost python. Accompanied by a deafening roar, the majestic thunder dragon swooped down from the sky towards the celestial ice frost python. Lei Long's body was several times larger than the celestial ice-cold python. Its might was so strong that the scales on the celestial ice-cold python's body rapidly trembled, constantly emitting cold air as it roared and clashed with Lei Long. The terrifying lightning energy mixed with the cold air rapidly exploded, spreading in all directions. The void was swaying, and the mountains and rivers were shaking. The unknown female cultivator urged the remaining spiritual power in her body to resist the energy waves that were pouring down like a flood. The celestial ice frost python was enduring the lightning dragon's attack. A large amount of lightning energy flowed into the wounds that Chu Kuangren had inflicted on its body, constantly destroying its body structure. Its originally white body gradually turned black, as if it had been roasted. Not long after, when the lightning dragon dissipated, the huge sky ice-cold python also fell to the ground. The cold air on its body dissipated, leaving only steam. Bastard! The dying celestial ice frost python stared at Chu Kuangren and did not forget to curse. Chu Kuangren did not hesitate either. He raised his sword, and with a flash of sword ray, he chopped off the celestial ice-cold python's horn on the spot. That horn was the most important thing to the celestial ice-cold python. It was already heavily injured, and now that the horn was gone, the celestial ice-cold python was completely dead. Chu Kuangren held the horn in his hand and felt the cold air that was emitting from it. He smirked. This horn is indeed a valuable treasure to Qingxue. Shang Qingxue was a frost Dao cultivator, and the celestial ice-cold python's horn was a frost attribute treasure, so it was very compatible with her. Fellow Taoist, I'm Lung Ningyu from the Seven Emotions sect. Could you please give me your horn? I'm willing to exchange it with a treasure of equal value. At that moment, the unknown female cultivator said to Chu Kuangren. Lung Ningyu from the Seven Emotions sect? Chu Kuangren had a strange look in his eyes when he heard that. He had heard of the Seven Emotions sect's name a few times. As for the name Lung Ningyu, the mystic sword guard had given him some information about Jian Daozi. If he remembered correctly, Jian Daozi had always been obsessed with this Lung Ningyu. At that thought, Chu Kuangren revealed a playful look. He then activated his Eye of Revelation to check on Lung Ningyu's information. Lung Ningyu, the sacred lady of the Seven Emotions sect, the forbidden sky pride of the Emperor's path. She cultivates the Seven Emotions sect's supreme technique, the Regal Oblivion technique. She's now a 7-step sage ruler. Her combat strength is comparable to the top boundary emperors. Chu Kuangren analyzed the information about Lung Ningyu. Then he played with the celestial ice-cold python's horn in his hand and pondered. A cultivator who cultivated the Regal Oblivion technique? A cultivator like that could forsake love and emotions. They were the top cultivators, and they were also the cultivators with the least weaknesses. What weaknesses could a person who could forsake love and emotions have? At that thought, Chu Kuangren looked at Lung Ningyu as if she was a piece of cold rock. He was not interested in her at all. If she still had feelings for him, that would be a different story. Just the fact that she was the love interest of Jian Daozi was enough to make use of her. However, she had forsaken love, and was just like a piece of rock. There were very few loopholes that could be used against a person like that. I'm sorry, but this horn is useful to me. Goodbye. No matter how good-looking she was, Chu Kuangren still saw her as a piece of cold rock. He had no interest in interacting with her at all. He responded casually, and his figure turned into a sword light, quickly disappearing from where he was. Lung Ningyu frowned as she watched him leave. She did not know why, but Chu Kuangren's gaze just now made her feel displeased. In the past, many people had looked at her the same way, but her emotions had never wavered. But now she felt uncomfortable. Chu Kuangren seemed to be different from the others. Why? This was clearly the first time the two of them had met. The more Lung Ningyu thought about it, the more she felt like there was a ball of fire burning in her heart. Pfft! Lung Ningyu immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was slightly pale. Oh no, there seems to be some problems with my path of forgetfulness. Lung Ningyu frowned and quickly calmed her emotions. It was not difficult for her, because she was a cultivator of the path of forgetfulness. Calming her emotions was a piece of cake. After a while, Lung Ningyu's face gradually returned to normal. She kept the Skysis python's corpse into her yin and yang ring. Although it's no longer horn, this Skysis python is still an extremely cold beast. It can also suppress honorable teacher's fire poison. She murmured and then looked in the direction where Chu Kuangren left. This man almost made me lose control of my path of forgetfulness. How terrifying. It looks like I need to be more careful when I meet him in the future. Lung Ningyu did not know why she had such an unusual emotional fluctuation when she met Chu Kuangren. To her, this situation was many times more terrifying than facing the Skysis python. Chapter 542. After killing the celestial frost python, Chu Kuangren took the horn to a mountain peak. He then handed the horn to Shang Qingxue. Thank you, sect leader. Looking at the horn in her hand, Shang Qingxue could clearly feel the powerful frosty Taoist rhyme contained within it. If she could gain enlightenment from it, her strength would definitely rise again. She was touched at that thought. She knew very well how terrifying a beast with a horn like that was. Not many in the entire Emperor's path could handle it. However, just because that item was useful to her, Chu Kuangren went to kill the celestial frost python, and obtained it. Chu Kuangren could be said to be ruthless to his enemies, but he was very gentle to his own people. That was also the reason why the Black Heaven sect respected him so much. Looking at the time, it's been 3 days since we entered the Thousand Strange Paradise, right? Chu Kuangren said. Yes, we've gained a lot of opportunities of fortune and treasures in these 3 days. Morong Xian said excitedly. With Chu Kuangren's treasure locating skill and their unparalleled strength, they had obtained many treasures and opportunities of fortune in these 3 days. As long as they left this place and found a place to digest these opportunities of fortune, their strength would definitely improve. I wonder how Jian Daozi is doing. Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin and muttered. Although they had collected many opportunities of fortune in these 3 days, Chu Kuangren was still concerned about the white spirit fruit that Jian Daozi had mentioned. That was one of the 10 great spirit fruits. Even for him, it was of great use. Just as he was thinking about that, the communication compass on his body vibrated. It was a message from Jian Changfeng. Oh, there's a result. Let me see, is it in the southeast direction? Chu Kuangren looked into the distance and grinned at Murong Xian. Let's go, it's time to reel in the net. After Jian Daozi was severely injured by Chu Kuangren, he spent a day and a night recovering. Following that, he searched for some opportunities of fortune in the Thousand Strange Paradise before he began to search for the white spirit fruit. Tens of thousands of years ago, the ancestors of the Sword Clan came to the Thousand Wonders Grotto Heaven and found the white spirit fruit. However, the fruit was not ripe and could not be picked easily. Therefore, they set up a seal and waited for the Thousand Wonders Grotto Heaven to reopen before they could pick it. Unfortunately, the heavens are unpredictable. Before the Thousand Wonders abode could open again, that senior had already perished and only left behind this map. Jian Daozi said, holding a map in his hand. On the map, there was a dot of light moving about, indicating Jian Daozi's current location. Tens of thousands of kilometers away from Jian Daozi's dot of light was another dot of light, which was none other than the white spirit fruit. As long as I can get this white spirit fruit, why should I worry about not being able to ascend to the throne? Jian Daozi's eyes shone with confidence. His own talent already had a high chance of breaking through to the Arch realm. With the addition of the white spirit divine fruit, he would far surpass the other forbidden prodigies. Thinking of this, his face revealed an irrepressible excitement. Changfeng shall congratulate you first, Master Daozi. Jian Changfeng said to Jian Daozi. Ha, Changfeng. When I become an emperor in the future, I will not mistreat you. In the future, both you and Mayor will be my right-hand man. Jian Daozi said with a faint smile. Jian Changfeng and the Mystic Sword Guard were the top sky prides of the younger generation of the Sword Clan. They could be said to be the future pillars of the Sword Clan. By subduing them first, Jian Changfeng had basically gained control of the Sword Clan in advance. Thank you, Master Daozi, for your generosity, Jian Changfeng said excitedly. Not long after, Jian Daozi and Jian Changfeng arrived at a mountain range. This mountain range looked ordinary, but in reality, it was full of hidden dangers. There were many restrictive spells set up inside. And if someone rashly barged in and triggered the restrictive spells, even a quasi-emperor expert would not have a good time. However, Jian Daozi was confident because the map left behind by that senior of the Sword Clan had recorded a safe route. As long as he followed the map, he would not trigger any seals. Let's go. Jian Daozi took the lead and stepped into the mountain range. Not long after, Chu Kuangren and the other two arrived. Looking at the ordinary mountain range in front of him, Chu Kuangren's spiritual thought surged. He knew that there were countless seals set up here. These seals were not too difficult for him. If he used brute force to break them, it would only take him 2 or 3 attacks. However, that would undoubtedly alert the enemy. It would not be good if he scared Jian Daozi and made him wary. He still needed Jian Daozi to lead him to the spirit fruit. It's a pity that the white spirit divine fruit is also protected by seals. Otherwise, my treasure locating skill would have easily found it. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said, Sect leader, look over there. At that moment, Morong Xian pointed in a direction and said, not far away, there were a few fragments of the spiritual source on the ground. Oh, this is the mark that Jian Changfeng left for us. Not bad. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. With the mark, they could follow the safe route that Jian Daozi had taken. Deep in the mountain range, there was a green pond. The water of this pond was filled with an extremely dense spiritual qi. The water was actually an extremely pure spiritual liquid. Just this spiritual liquid alone was comparable to tens of thousands of kilograms of spiritual source. In the middle of the pond, there was a strange emerald green fruit tree that was about the height of a human. This fruit tree only bore a single white fruit. That white fruit was the size of a fist and was crystal clear like a precious jade. There was a white mist circulating around it that emanated an extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme. This was one of the 10 great spiritual fruits that countless people dreamed of, the white spirit divine fruit. I've finally found it. Jian Daozi walked out of the seal. He looked at the white spirit divine fruit in front of him with excitement. It looks like this white spirit divine fruit has fully ripened. In a flash, he covered his hands with a layer of spiritual power and was about to pick the white spirit divine fruit. However, at that moment, the white spirit divine fruit gently swayed. The spirit fruit automatically left the tree and flew in a certain direction. The sudden change made Jian Daozi's expression change. He quickly chased after the white spirit divine fruit. A sword qi shot towards him. The familiar aura made Jian Daozi shrink back. He too took out his long sword and swung it. The sword qi was so powerful that it was hard to defend against it. The moment Jian Daozi's sword and the sword qi intersected, a metallic sound was heard. However, he was forced back by several meters. Such a sword qi, it's you. Jian Daozi's expression changed as he looked into the distance. He saw the white spirit divine fruit being led by an invisible mind power to the top of a mountain. There a person held it in his hand and played with it. That person was dressed in white and had black hair. He was extremely handsome. It was none other than Chu Kuangren. Why is it you? Why are you here? Jian Daozi stared at Chu Kuangren, feeling extremely dissatisfied. The white spirit divine fruit that he had painstakingly found was taken away by someone else before he could even touch it. Jian Daozi was so angry that his eyes bulged. He glared at Chu Kuangren as if he wanted to kill Chu Kuangren with his gaze. Chapter 543. Chu Kuangren, why are you here? Jian Daozi stared at the white spirit divine fruit in Chu Kuangren's hand with hatred in his eyes. I sensed the presence of a seal here, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect to run into this white spirit divine fruit. Looks like I'm in luck. Chu Kuangren said casually before he kept the white spirit divine fruit into his yin and yang ring. At that, Jian Daozi could no longer hold it in anymore. He drew his sword and charged towards Chu Kuangren. With a slash, a piercing sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted. The surrounding spiritual power gathered and turned into wind blades that swept towards Chu Kuangren. Sword of Hurricane. It was an incredibly powerful emperor technique. Moreover, this emperor technique was very compatible with Jian Daozi's Dao, so its power had surpassed most boundary emperors. However, Chu Kuangren simply raised his arm and unleashed a sword qi. The domineering purple sword ray swept out like a torrent, shattering Jian Daozi's sword qi and sending him flying hundreds of feet away. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll spare your life today, Chu Kuangren said. Then his figure flashed and turned into a sword ray before he disappeared. D*eminent. D*eminent. Jian Daozi's expression was extremely grim, and he was so angry that his entire body was trembling. What kind of treasure was that white spirit divine fruit? The previous generation of swordsmen had been planning to obtain it, and Jian Daozi had been searching for it for so long. Yet Chu Kuangren had taken it away. How could he tolerate that? Jian Daozi continued to roar in anger. Suddenly, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned extremely pale. Chu Kuangren's sword attack had severely injured him once again. D*eminent. I've already used up the golden rejuvenation pill. If this goes on, I won't be able to use this clone anymore. He looked at the spirit tree that bore the white spirit divine fruit. After the white spirit divine fruit was harvested, the spirit tree had already withered. However, there was still a pool of spiritual liquid left. Jian Daozi's eyes lit up. He then walked towards the spirit pool and immersed himself in it. He channeled his spiritual power and began to absorb the spiritual liquid. Under the nourishment of the spiritual liquid, his injuries rapidly healed. Not only that, but his spiritual power cultivation had also improved. I didn't expect the spiritual liquid to have such an effect. This is truly surprising. But then his face suddenly darkened. This spiritual liquid was merely a small amount of energy emitted by the spirit tree. However, just this little bit of energy had such an effect. Then, what kind of miraculous effect would the white spirit divine fruit have? When he thought of this, his heart ached so much that it bled. His hatred towards Chu Kuangren became even more difficult to suppress. Chu Kuangren, I Jiandaozi swear to avenge this. He swore the oath in a low voice. There should still be other opportunities of fortune within the Thousand Wonders Paradise. As long as I grasp them well, I might not necessarily lose to Chu Kuangren, even if I'm just a clone now. There are still about 10 days before the grotto heaven disappears. I have to collect enough opportunities. Jian Daozi took a deep breath and decided to regroup. He left the mountain range with Jian Changfeng. Meanwhile, from afar, Chu Kuangren was able to understand Jian Daozi's every move through Jian Changfeng. Jian Daozi, what other surprises do you have in store for me? Chu Kuangren smirked. Sect leader, why didn't you take the spiritual liquid as well? Shang Qingxue asked curiously. To her, Chu Kuangren was not the kind of person who would feed his enemies. Those spiritual liquids are useless to me. I should at least give them some benefits. Otherwise, how would they have the confidence to fight me? Chu Kuangren chuckled. Upon hearing that, Morong Xian and Shang Qingxue felt sorry for Jian Daozi. It was too difficult. Not only was he surrounded by spies, but it was also Chu Kuangren who gave him the confidence to fight Chu Kuangren. Jian Daozi was such a pitiful Daozi. 2 days later, Jian Daozi absorbed an emperor-grade supreme medicine in a mountain range. Suddenly, a majestic aura erupted from his body and swept across thousands of kilometers. I didn't expect to encounter an emperor-grade supreme medicine here. After absorbing it, my clone's combat strength is infinitely close to my real body's. Even if I can't defeat Chu Kuangren, I won't be completely defenseless. Jian Daozi took a deep breath and said, Congratulations, Sir Daozi. Jian Changfeng congratulated him from the side. There are still a few days left. I wonder what other surprises the Thousand Wonders Paradise will bring me. Jian Daozi's eyes were filled with anticipation. The Thousand Wonders Paradise was indeed a great opportunity of fortune in the Emperor's path. The number of treasures in it far exceeded that of any orthodoxy in the Emperor's path. In just a few days, Jian Daozi had obtained some opportunities of fortune that were equivalent to 100 years of cultivation. Boom. At that moment, the ground suddenly trembled. Jian Daozi and Jian Changfeng looked around with bewilderment on their faces. What's going on? Such a violent tremor. Is the entire Thousand Wonders Paradise shaking? Jian Daozi and Jian Changfeng looked at each other before they leaped into the air. Sure enough, it was not just them. The entire Thousand Wonders Paradise was shaking. Every cultivator was shocked. What's going on? Why is the paradise shaking like this? What the hell is going on? Guys, look that direction. At that moment, someone suddenly exclaimed. In a certain direction, a green beam of light suddenly shot into the sky. The direction of the beam of light was also the place where the tremor was the most intense. The beam of light was spreading, and wherever it went, the ground cracked and cracked. Large amounts of green mist gushed out and spread in all directions. Some cultivators who were enveloped by the green mist felt their bodies relax and their fatigue fade away. Not only that, but the green mist also contained an incredibly dense spiritual qi that could be easily absorbed and converted into spiritual power by cultivators. Great opportunity of fortune. This must be some kind of great opportunity of fortune. By the heavens, what is inside this crack? How can it release such an aura? Everyone was in disbelief as they stared at the crack. Far away, on a mountain peak, Chu Kuangren grabbed a cloud of green mist and activated his universal cauldron physique, easily absorbing it into his body and converting it into spiritual power. Oh, this thing is interesting. I wonder what's at the bottom of this crack. Chu Kuangren said with interest. Every cultivator who had entered the Thousand Wonders Paradise stared at the expanding crack. Not long after, the green light gradually dissipated, and the scene inside the crevice gradually appeared in front of everyone. It was an enormous fissure that was tens of thousands of meters deep, stretching for tens of thousands of miles from the beginning to the end. In the crevice, there were many precious herbs, spirit fruits, and some green crystals, all of which were emitting powerful energy fluctuations. This is a spiritual chi land vein. And it's a wood-based spiritual chi land vein. There are so many supreme elixirs and spiritual fruits. Just how dense must the wood-based spiritual chi be in order to nurture them? And how long has it been nurtured for? The sudden collapse of this land vein must mean that the earth couldn't withstand the ever-increasing spiritual chi. By the heavens, this is unbelievable. Chapter 544. The sudden appearance of the spiritual energy vein shocked all the cultivators in the Thousand Wonders Grotto heaven. Following that, all the cultivators went into a frenzy. There were too many of them. There were so many treasures in the spiritual energy vein that they could not calm down at all. Oh my God, there are so many treasures. Just one or two of them would be enough to make us rich. Yeah, let's go. That's the Emperor Grade Essence Blood Spirit Fruit. Oh my God, I must have that. All the cultivators rushed toward the spiritual energy vein. However, right at this moment, a red figure suddenly shot up into the sky and arrived above the spiritual energy vein. An incomparably powerful aura erupted from her body and enveloped the entire spiritual energy vein. That person was none other than the Bai family's forbidden sky pride, Bai Hongyu. Bai Hongyu had a cold look on her face as she said coldly, "Anyone who dares to touch the treasures within an 800-mile radius will die." As soon as the word die was uttered, she raised her hand and struck out. A cultivator who barged into her aura exploded into a mist of blood on the spot. The shock of this move caused the expressions of all the cultivators present to change. This Bai Hongyu is too domineering. That's normal. She's a taboo sky pride, so of course she has the strength to say such things. If we want to snatch the treasures in front of a taboo sky pride, the few of us are far from qualified. Let's go somewhere else. That's right. Under Bai Hongyu's intimidation, no one dared to touch the treasures within her designated area. However, the spiritual energy vein was very wide. Although Bai Hongyu had occupied a part of it, there were still many areas that she had not occupied. But with Bai Hongyu making her move, how could the other taboo sky prides sit still? All of a sudden, a sword ray shot up into the sky. The sword ray filled the air, and an extremely cold sword-based Taoist rhyme instantly covered an 800-mile radius. Everything within an 800-mile radius is my territory. Anyone who trespasses shall die. That was Jian Daozi's voice. He stood in the air, and his sword chi intimidated the surrounding area. No one dared to challenge him. D***Mnet, the sword race's Daozi has also made his move. It's not just him. Just as Jian Daozi made his move, a colorful burst of energy exploded in the distance, turning into a colorful light barrier that covered an area of 1,000 miles. The power of the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, revolved around the light shield. A young man in a white robe had a 5-colored light above his head, and waves of spiritual energy rippled out. He was extremely powerful, like an unparalleled god king. My Wang clan wants this area. The white-robed young man spoke with an indifferent tone, a disdainful gaze, and a tyrannical oppressive might. Compared to Jian Daozi and Bai Hongyu, his aura was in no way inferior. Royal power. This person was the forbidden prodigy of the 9 heavens Wang family. Haha, since all of you have made a move, I won't hold back either. Large amounts of dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky, and a terrifying demonic aura pressure descended from the sky, covering a radius of 1,000 miles. The terrifying demonic might made it hard for people to breathe. Amidst the dark clouds, a domineering and mighty young man dressed in dark gold armor slowly descended. The tip of his foot stepped on the ground, and the entire ground instantly exploded. These 1,000 miles belong to my demon race. Trespassers die. The mighty young man surveyed his surroundings. Behind him, demonic chi surged, as if there were countless demonic beasts roaring. This person was the forbidden prodigy from the demon world of hell, Tu Heng. Beside him, There was another prodigy from the demon world, Tuba, who was previously on the hidden dragon leaderboard. Roar! An angry roar suddenly rang out, and the terrifying sound waves caused the clouds within a radius of 1,000 miles to rumble. In the forest far away, a giant snake demon with 9 heads slowly walked over. Wherever it went, it was either burned to a crisp by flames or drowned by water. Seeing that beast, all the prodigies present sucked in a breath of cold air. It's him, Jiuyan of the 9 Infants tribe. The forbidden prodigy of the ancient beast tribe is also here. Jiuyan's strength is also an extremely terrifying existence among the forbidden prodigies. The spiritual Qi Earth vein actually attracted him here. It wasn't just the ordinary prodigies. Even the forbidden prodigies were wary of Jiuyan. The ancient beast tribe was extremely powerful. Because they were too powerful, the number of beasts had always been small. However, all of them were top-notch existences within the same cultivation level. Moreover, Jiuyan was the top prodigy of the 9 Infants tribe. All the treasures within a radius of 1,500 miles are mine. I'll devour whoever dares to touch them. The head in the middle of Jiuyan said. The other 8 heads swept across the scene, and everyone who was gazed upon by them could not help but feel a chill down their spine. Even when facing the deterrence of the other forbidden prodigies, no one dared to easily resist, let alone an ancient beast like Jiuyan. Bai Hongyu, Jiandaozi, Wang Quan, Tu Heng, and even the ancient beast Jiuyan. These forbidden prodigies made a move, and almost half of the entire spiritual Qi Earth vein was divided up. Some of the top-notch prodigies who were second only to the forbidden prodigies also followed suit, and divided up a portion of the spiritual Qi Earth vein. The small ones ranged from a few miles to a few dozen miles. They divided the entire spiritual Qi Earth vein into many regions. Some of the ordinary prodigies could not even get a share of the treasures. However, looking at the treasures right in front of them, no one was willing to leave. What right do these top-notch prodigies have to monopolize all the treasures? If we join forces, I don't believe we can't snatch it from them. That's right. The forbidden prodigies are too strong. We can't deal with them. Those top-notch prodigies can't possibly be invincible. That's right. It's impossible for them to monopolize all the treasures. Some prodigies were dissatisfied with the current situation, so they started to join forces and launch a counterattack against the top-notch prodigies. For a time, battles broke out in various parts of the spiritual Qi Earth vein. However, no one dared to act recklessly in the territories of the forbidden prodigies. The forbidden prodigies were too terrifying, and they were on a completely different level compared to the other prodigies. Ordinary prodigies might be able to contend against the top-notch prodigies if they joined forces, but they were still a far cry from these forbidden prodigies who were comparable to quasi-emperors. A bunch of ants sure are making a ruckus. The ancient beast Jiuyan sneered as he glanced at the prodigies who were fighting over a supreme herb. In the territory he occupied, there were more than 100 supreme herbs of that level. Let's collect these supreme herbs first, Bai Hongyu said. Said Bai Hongyu. She then glanced at Xiao Jingchen who was beside her. At this moment, Xiao Jingchen was looking around as if he was searching for something. What are you looking for? I'm looking for someone. I want to see if that guy is here, Xiao Jingchen said. Bai Hongyu frowned when she heard this. Hearing this, Bai Hongyu frowned slightly. She naturally knew who he was referring to. Not far away, Tuba was also looking around looking for someone. Doesn't Chu Kuangren want such a great opportunity of fortune? Tuba said with a frown. Chu Kuangren is the supreme sage you mentioned, right? Tuba, you seem to be very wary of that person. Tu Heng walked over and said casually, Big brother, don't underestimate that person. He's the reason why the demonic realm's descent into the firmament world failed. If I didn't escape in time, there would have been another demonic corpse in the purgatory forest that day. Tuba said solemnly. He was afraid of Chu Kuangren. All right, let's collect the supreme herbs here first. All right. Tuba nodded and began to collect the supreme herbs and spiritual fruits. However, all of a sudden, a violent gust of wind swept across the entire spiritual Qi Earth vein with a chilling aura. Chapter 545. A gust of wind that was mixed with a piercing sword-based Taoist rhyme swept across the entire spiritual qi vein. Xiao Jingchen, Tuba, Jiandaozi, and the others narrowed their eyes as they looked into the distance. Countless streaks of sword qi suddenly rose into the air, forming 12 terrifying pillars of sword qi that completely enveloped the spirit energy veins within a radius of 5,000 kilometers. This is the Nine Heaven Sword Prison, the exquisite Nine Orifices Sword Heart's transformation. Is it Jiandaozi? No, there's another person besides Jiandaozi. He's here. Everyone looked in a certain direction where the densest sword qi in the world was circulating. A white-robed, black-haired young man slowly walked through the air. Sword qi blossomed from the tip of his feet like green lotuses. The peerless beauty of a celestial being caused all the cultivators present to be astonished. However, cultivators like Xiao Jingchen and Tuba who had witnessed this person's techniques before could not help but reveal expressions of fear. This spiritual qi earth vein, I want it, Chu Kuangren said calmly. His voice was not loud, but it was clearly heard by every cultivator at the scene. All the cultivators were astonished. If I didn't hear it wrong, the spiritual qi earth vein he mentioned was the entire spiritual qi earth vein, right? If my ability to understand is correct, then this is what it looks like. What did he say? The entire spiritual qi vein? That's ridiculous. Even the Forbidden Sky Prides only occupied a small area each, and he dares to take it all. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren as if they were looking at a madman. How many treasures did this spiritual qi vein contain? It was unimaginable. No Forbidden Sky Prides would dare to take it all, nor would they have the ability to take it all for themselves. However, Chu Kuangren did. As expected of Chu Kuangren, his words are truly shocking. Xiao Jingchen took a deep breath and said, compared to the others, he was not that surprised. Before entering the Emperor's path, the things that Chu Kuangren did in the firmament star were not any worse than this. F***ckme, this guy is still as domineering as ever. How cool. Zhan Hongying licked her lips and looked at Chu Kuangren with a hint of admiration in her eyes. The Ashura tribe yearned for battle and the strong, and Chu Kuangren was undoubtedly the strongest among the strong. Not only that, he had also sealed the demon world in the Purgatory Forest, and helped the Ashura tribe overcome their crisis. It was no wonder that Zhan Hongying admired him. You want the entire spiritual qi earth vein? At that moment, the forbidden ruler of the Wang family, Wang Quan, looked at Chu Kuangren and sneered. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? I, Chu Kuangren, am the one who will conquer the Emperor's road, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He casually said the words sweep through the Emperor's road, as if there was no pressure at all. Hearing this, all the prodigies couldn't help but frown. F***ckme. This is too arrogant, isn't it? He simply looks down on everyone in the world. Humph, sweeping through the Emperor's road is not something that can be achieved with just words. Wang Quan snorted, then looked at Jiandaozi and said, Jiandaozi, you and he both have the exquisite Nine Orifices Sword Heart. Don't you have anything to say? Everyone turned to look at Jiandaozi. If two exquisite Nine Orifices Sword Hearts were to fight, it would definitely be a battle of the pinnacle of swordsmanship. It was an extremely rare sight in history. At that thought, everyone could not help but look forward to it. However, Jiandaozi's face turned grim when he heard Wang Quan's words. He looked at Chu Kuangren with fear in his eyes. Chu Kuangren was also looking at him with a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Jiandaozi, do you dare to make a move? Chu Kuangren, don't be too arrogant. Jiandaozi said coldly. Cut the crap. Do you dare or not? Faced with such a question from Chu Kuangren, any other Forbidden Sky Pride would have already made a move. However, Jiandaozi did not dare to make a move. After being defeated by Chu Kuangren twice in a row, he already knew how terrifying Chu Kuangren's strength was. Even though Jiandaozi had collected many opportunities of fortune in the Emperor's road over the past few days, and his clone's strength was infinitely close to his real self's, he still did not dare to make a move. Meanwhile, the crowd had also figured out something. Was Jiandaozi afraid? He was afraid of Chu Kuangren. This discovery caused all the Sky Prides present to gasp in shock. Who was Jiandaozi? The Taoist of the Swordsman tribe, a Forbidden Sky Pride. the most brilliant person in swordsmanship. Yet someone like him did not even dare to make a move before Chu Kuangren. At that thought, everyone felt that the scene before them was too ridiculous. No way, Jian Daozi. You're afraid. Wang Quan could tell as well, and he said in shock. When Jian Daozi heard that, he said with an ugly expression, Wang Quan, can't you be any more annoying? If you want to make a move, do it yourself. After that he retreated to the side, making it clear that he did not want to make a move. Seeing that, the crowd could basically confirm that Jian Daozi was really afraid of Chu Kuangren. Where did this guy come from? Even Jian Daozi is afraid of him. In the Emperor's path, there were many sky prides who did not know who Chu Kuangren was, but now, the name Chu Kuangren was etched into their minds. He was an existence that even Jian Daozi was afraid of. Looks like he doesn't have the guts to make a move, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He then looked at Wang Quan and the others. What about you guys? I'd like to see what you're made of. Wang Quan snorted coldly. A mysterious five-colored light circulated around his body, and waves of overbearing magical power fluctuations spread out. 5 elements, golden fissure. Wang Quan threw a punch, and a golden light instantly gushed out. It was wrapped in a majestic wave of metallic qi, like a golden torrent. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he did not draw out the descendant self-sword from his waist. Instead, he raised his hand and unleashed a punch. A terrifying black fist qi that was burning with majestic flames of anger smashed onto the golden torrent. The collision of the two forces created a loud bang, and a large amount of golden torrent was swept out, causing Wang Quan's pupils to shrink. What? Among the 5-colored light behind him, the yellow light shone brightly and turned into a giant shield that exuded a heavy qi. Mountain River Shield. The golden torrent that was mixed with Chu Kuangren's fist qi collided with the Mountain River Shield. The shield shattered, and Wang Quan was forced to retreat nearly 100 feet. He looked at Chu Kuangren with a serious gaze. With just one move, he could tell that Chu Kuangren's strength was no weaker than his, or even stronger. Anger? What's your relationship with the 7 Emotions sect? Wang Quan asked coldly. Jian Daozi, who was initially watching from the sidelines, could no longer sit still. Lung Ningyu, whom he admired, was the 7 Emotions sect's maiden sage. It doesn't matter, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're related to the 7 Emotions sect or not. If you want to monopolize the entire spiritual Qi Earth vein today, dream on. As Wang Quan raised his hand, the 5-colored light behind him gushed out, and turned into a giant hand that viciously grabbed at Chu Kuangren. 5 elements capture. The magnificent power of the 5 elements circulated around the giant hand, and it ruthlessly smashed towards Chu Kuangren. Is that all you've got? A hint of disappointment flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes, and he then unsheathed the descendant self-sword from his waist. A purple sword ray pierced through the air, and with a piercing Taoist rhyme that seemed to be able to destroy everything, it tore the 5 elements' giant hand into 2. With a scream, Wang Quan was sent flying. His right palm was bleeding profusely, and there was a wound so deep that his bones could be seen. With the descendant self-sword in his hand, Chu Kuangren glanced at the few forbidden sky prides at the scene. It's too troublesome to fight one by one. All of you, come at me together. Chapter 546. All of you, come at me together. Chu Kuangren swept his gaze across the crowd. Jiu Yan, Wang Quan, and the others were enraged at his words, while the other sky prides were speechless. Fighting against all the forbidden sky prides alone was something that had never happened in the Emperor's path before. No one dared to imagine what it would be like. Chu Kuangren, you're indeed powerful. But don't you think you're exaggerating if you think you can take on all the forbidden sky prides here by yourself? Jiu Yan let out a long roar, and his huge body quickly shrunk into a golden-robed young man with sharp brows and bright eyes. Although he was in human form, Jiu Yan's body still emanated a violent, ferocious qi that was unique to wild beasts. The 9-headed snakelet tribe. Ha, I didn't expect to meet another one here. Chu Kuangren glanced at Jiu Yan and said, Oh, have you met the other 9-headed snakelets before me? Yes, I've killed one. Jiu Yan's expression turned extremely gloomy when he heard that. As an ancient wild beast, the nine-headed snakelet was rare to begin with. Killing one meant one less. If Chu Kuangren dared to kill a nine-headed snakelet, he would undoubtedly become the enemy of the entire nine-headed snakelet tribe. Then you shall pay for what you've done. Jiu Yan did not waste any more words and immediately attacked. He unleashed a punch, and red and blue lights circulated around his fist. A terrifying surge of water and fire Taoist rhyme erupted and engulfed Chu Kuangren. The nine-headed snakelet was an expert in controlling fire and water. In terms of fire and water, not many tribes could compare to the nine-headed snakelet tribe. Chu Kuangren's expression did not change in the slightest in the face of the incoming fire and water Taoist rhymes. He lifted his sword and unleashed a purple sword ray that was as fast as a meteor. It split the fire and water Taoist rhymes apart, and the sword ray flew straight towards Nine Flames like a straight line. Impressive! Jiu Yan let out a low roar and clenched his fist before unleashing a punch. That punch was simple and plain, but it was the purest form of physical strength. The purple sword ray was forcefully shattered by Jiu Yan. Although he was pushed back a few meters, he was not injured at all. The physical body of an ancient wild beast is also a powerful weapon. Chu Kuangren said calmly before a hint of curiosity flashed across his eyes. I wonder if it's stronger than my supreme sage physique. When he thought of this, he actually put away the descendant self-sword and took a step forward with his head held high. Bang! The entire void rumbled as a result of his movements. This was not spiritual power, nor was it a Taoist rhyme. It was the sound of the purest physical strength breaking through the void. What? Jiu Yan narrowed his eyes. How could a human cultivator have such a terrifying body? However, before Nine Flames could think any further, Chu Kuangren had already arrived in front of him. Chu Kuangren unleashed a punch that caused the surrounding void to rumble. Nine Flame crossed his arms to block. A tremendous force erupted, and Nine Flame felt as if the bones in his arms were about to break. F***ck. Jiu Yan let out a strange cry as he was blasted hundreds of feet away by Chu Kuangren's punch. His hands were trembling uncontrollably. Is that all you've got? Chu Kuangren dashed out once again, crossing a distance of 1,000 feet in an instant. He then lashed out his leg like a whip, causing the void to howl and a violent gust of wind to form. That kick was too fast and too ruthless. Jiu Yan could not dodge in time, and the kick landed squarely on his head. His entire body was sent flying like a cannonball before he smashed into a mountain wall not far away. With a loud boom, the entire mountain wall instantly exploded and caved in by hundreds of feet. Countless cracks spread out like a spider web. From the moment Chu Kuangren used his physical strength to fight Jiu Yan, only 2 breaths had passed. However, the physical strength that he displayed left the Sky Prides at the scene dumbfounded. They could not believe it. The physical strength of an ancient wild beast had been suppressed. All along, the physical strength of an ancient wild beast had been the talk of the cultivators. Even if they did not use their spiritual power or divine abilities, their physical strength alone was enough to dominate their peers in the same realm. No cultivator had ever dared to compete with a wild beast in terms of physical strength, not even the cultivators who specialized in physique tempering. It was almost an unwritten rule in the cultivation world. Yet now Chu Kuangren had broken that rule in front of them with a punch and a kick. A human cultivator could use his physical strength to suppress a wild beast. Monster! By Hong Yu, Xiao Jingchen, and the others could not help but exclaim. I'm going to kill you. Not far away, Jiu Yan, who had been punched into the mountain wall, let out an angry roar. An incredibly majestic surge of fire and water energy suddenly gushed out from his body. The terrifying power of fire and water spread and completely shattered everything around it. Jiu Yan walked out from the cave in the mountain wall with a monstrous surge of fire and water Taoist rhyme emanating from his body. The 2 colors of red and blue constantly alternated on his body. Fire and water divine ability Flame Serpent. Jiu Yan let out a furious roar as a crimson-red flame erupted and turned into a giant fire serpent that charged towards Chu Kuangren. The strength of that attack was already comparable to a top-notch boundary emperor. Chu Kuangren smirked at that and said, since I can /T compete with you in terms of physical strength, I/LL still crush you in terms of cultivation level. With a lift of his arm, a huge amount of spiritual chi converged towards him like 100 rivers returning to the sea. That one palm attack could evoke the infinite sorrow of the cultivators at the scene. Emperor technique, Heaven/a sorrowful palm. The Heaven/a sorrowful palm instantly shattered half of the fire serpent, and its terrifying palm chi swept in all directions, forcing the cultivators nearby to channel their spiritual power to resist it. What kind of Tao is this guy taking? Why is he able to unleash such terrifying power with so many different techniques? The crowd of Forbidden Sky Prides looked at Chu Kuangren in confusion. As Forbidden Sky Prides, they had already found their own Tao just like the other boundary emperors. Logically speaking, only a technique that was compatible with their Tao would be able to unleash their full power. This was also the reason why quasi-emperors would rather create their own quasi-emperor techniques than use emperor techniques. This was also the case for Forbidden Heavens Prides. However, Chu Kuangren had used several techniques, and each of them could unleash terrifying combat strength. The crowd had no idea what Tao he was taking. Jiu Yen could not care less about what Tao Chu Kuangren was taking now. After his technique was countered, he was the first to bear the brunt of the impact and was pushed back dozens of feet. Then, he roared and activated his divine abilities again. Fire and water divine abilities, Flame Serpent, Water Tiger. The fire and water Taoist rhymes manifested in the void, turning into a gigantic fire serpent and a roaring water tiger. Two terrifying surges of energy charged towards Chu Kuangren from the left and right at the same time. Sword Chi Clone. Chu Kuangren was calm in the face of such a technique. A surge of sword chi manifested on his body, which then condensed into a sword chi clone that looked exactly like him. Chu Kuangren and the sword chi clone each unleashed a sword attack, and easily dispelled Jiu Yen/S attack. Cloning Tao. Another brand new technique. Also, ISN/T. This clone of his too powerful to be able to block Jiu Yen/S attack? The crowd felt that Chu Kuangren was unfathomable the more they looked at him. Jiu Yen could be considered the strongest among the Forbidden Sky Prides present. However, he could not gain the upper hand against Chu Kuangren even with his full strength. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren had a nonchalant look on his face since the beginning. Chapter 547. D**MNet. How can this guy be so powerful? Jiu Yan's face darkened. Ever since he started cultivating, this was the first time he felt such a terrifying pressure from a human cultivator. His opponent had obviously neutralized all of his attacks with just a wave of his hand, causing him to be at a loss for what to do. Do you guys still want to watch? At that moment, Chu Kuangren spoke. He was not talking to Jiu Yan, but to Wang Quan by Hong Yu, Tu Heng, and the other Forbidden Sky Prides. They looked at each other when they heard that. Jian Daozi said, "If any of you are confident that you can defeat him in a one-on-one fight, go ahead." After witnessing Chu Kuangren's ability to suppress Jiu Yan, they no longer had such thoughts. Let's attack together. Let's get rid of this person first before we divide this earth vein. Wang Quan said. Besides Jiu Yan, he had also exchanged 2 blows with Chu Kuangren. Although it was only 2 blows, the wound on his palm had not fully recovered. Chu Kuangren's powerful combat strength made him understand that this person was not someone that the Forbidden Sky Prides could defeat in a one-on-one fight. I'm afraid that even Qin Tianqian, who is known as the reincarnation of an emperor, is no match for him. Wang Quan thought to himself. Then he made the first move. A 5-colored radiance circulated behind him, and condensed into a giant 5-colored light wheel in the air. As the 5-colored light wheel spun in the air, rays of divine light descended, causing Wang Quan's aura to increase by a large margin. Chu Kuangren, I'll show you the power of my 5-colored wheel. Wang Quan said with a cold snort. The 5-colored divine wheel was a remarkable ability that he was born with. Because of this remarkable ability, he was hailed as the most suitable cultivator to cultivate the Tao of the 5 elements in the history of the Wang clan. Even some of the quasi-emperors of the Wang clan were far inferior to him in the Tao of the 5 elements. Chu Kuangren, you and I still have one more fight. Let's continue. Bai Hongyu shouted. Taoist rhymes circulated on the bright red armor on her body, causing her aura to increase continuously. She took out a crimson longsword that was engraved with a lifelike flood dragon pattern that emanated a terrifying ferocious chi. Let me have a go too. Tu Hung from the demonic realm took a step forward. Demonic chi circulated on his body, and a terrifying demonic aura spread out. Chu Kuangren, I also want to see how strong your exquisite 9 orifices sword heart is. Jian Daozi took a step forward, his sword chi dense. The Taoist rhymes of the 4 forbidden sky prides erupted and locked onto Chu Kuangren with their auras. Seeing this, the surrounding heaven's favorites' expressions changed as they quickly backed away, afraid that they would be caught up in the upcoming battle. The corners of Chu Kuangren's lips curled up slightly as he hooked his finger at the crowd. Come, let me see what kind of trash you forbidden sky prides are. Chu Kuangren's aura was not the slightest bit weaker than the 5 of them. In fact, he was even more arrogant than them. Go! Wang Quan was the first to break the tide of the battle. With a punch, the dazzling 5-ways brilliance erupted and swept towards Chu Kuangren with terrifying spiritual power. Chu Kuangren spun the Descendant Self sword in his hand and swung it. The sharp sword ray instantly tore apart the 5 elements light. The sword light landed on Wang Quan's body, instantly sending him flying hundreds of feet away. However, right after that, from beside Chu Kuangren, a majestic surge of water and fire energy instantly erupted and swept towards him. It was Zhu Yan who had made his move. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about that attack. That was because the sword chi clone behind him had already made its move. With a slash of its sword, it broke through the water and fire energy, and flew forward to engage Zhu Yan in battle. Although this sword chi clone was not as powerful as Chu Kuangren, it was more than enough to deal with Zhu Yan. Heaven-worshipping sword art. Bai Hongyu raised the crimson longsword in her hand, and a terrifying red sword ray manifested. Within it, there was a vision of a demon kneeling and worshipping the heavens. The heaven-worshipping sword art and the heaven-worshipping seal were the top emperor techniques of the Bai family. The Dao that Bai Hongyu walked on was the Dao of dominance. It was something that she had discovered from these 2 emperor techniques. Hence, she was able to unleash an extremely powerful combat strength using these 2 emperor techniques. As the red sword ray descended, the surrounding void was almost torn apart. The vision of the demon kneeling emanated a boundless domineering aura that completely shrouded Chu Kuangren. Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. Chu Kuangren did not retreat nor evade. Instead, a look of pity appeared on his face, as if he was a high and mighty Buddha. A terrifying golden Buddhist light manifested from his body, shaking the heavens and earth. Amidst the Buddhist light, an ancient Buddha that was 10,000 feet tall suddenly appeared. Its hands were wrapped in a majestic Buddhist light as it pushed outwards. Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the Buddhist light and the sword chi merged and turned into a golden-red chi ray that swept out, shocking the heavens and earth. Chu Kuangren and Bai Hongyu were the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Even with the protection of a boundary emperor weapon, Bai Hongyu was still blasted away by the huge recoil. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, retreated a few feet back and gently brushed the dust off his clothes. His supreme sage body was unscathed. Sword of Hurricane. As soon as Bai Hongyu's attack was unleashed, Jian Daozi's sword chi had already arrived. The 2 attacks connected seamlessly. If it were any other cultivator, they would not even have the time to channel their spiritual power and attack again under such circumstances. However, apart from Chu Kuangren's spiritual power and cultivation level, he also had a powerful mind power. As his formless mind power gushed out, lines of mysterious runes condensed around Chu Kuangren's body, forming an indestructible runic barrier. The sword chi intertwined and landed on the runic barrier, causing a series of explosions. The runic barrier shattered, but Jian Daozi's sword chi still could not hurt Chu Kuangren in the slightest. Jian Daozi, your strength is too weak. You should find a place to cool off first. Chu Kuangren said. With a lift of his arm, his formless mind power condensed into lines of runes that intertwined into countless runic swords in the void. Frost runic swords, flame runic swords, storm runic swords, the endless runic swords poured down like a torrential rain, forming a monstrous torrent that emanated an endless divine radiance that surged towards Jiandaozi. Although Jiandaozi's strength had improved a lot over the past few days, he still felt an unprecedented pressure from such power. Sword of Hurricane. With a furious roar, Jiandaozi pushed his sword technique to its limit. The sword chi was like a never-ending hurricane that swept across, but it was shattered by the power of the thousands of runes. Unable to withstand such power, Jiandaozi was instantly blasted into the ground. One move. Another move. No matter how much Jiandaozi improved, he still could not withstand a single move from Chu Kuangren. Such combat strength made the hearts of countless people tremble. Other than terrifying, they could not think of any other word to describe such combat strength. Chu Kuangren, take this. At that moment, a loud noise came from the sky, and a vast surge of demonic chi erupted, forming a demonic chi vortex that covered a radius of 1,000 kilometers. Within that vortex, a gigantic purple demonic eye suddenly opened and coldly stared at Chu Kuangren below, emanating an endless amount of domineering aura. Under the demonic eye, Tu Heng, who was surrounded by demonic chi, stared coldly at Chu Kuangren. Demonic eye of oblivion, perish. As soon as he finished speaking, a purple demonic ray shot out from the demonic eye of oblivion towards Chu Kuangren. The demonic ray contained a terrifying power of oblivion. Wherever it went, the void would distort and everything would be destroyed. Chapter 548. Demonic Eye of Oblivion. Tu Heng, the forbidden sky pride of the demonic tribe, unleashed his strongest attack while the other forbidden sky prides were holding Chu Kuangren back. The terrifying demonic eye appeared in the sky, and a terrifying demonic light descended from the sky and locked onto Chu Kuangren. Wherever it went, the void shattered and everything was destroyed. In the face of such power, Chu Kuangren's expression remained calm. He did not show the slightest bit of fear. An extremely powerful ferocious chi suddenly erupted from his body and shot into the sky, turning into a terrifying avatar. It was Chu Kuangren's divine ferocious avatar. He had long upgraded the infallible tormented physique to its complete form. Coupled with his supreme sage physique, its power was extremely terrifying. A battle roar echoed in the sky, and the chilling battle intent shook the heavens and earth. The divine ferocious avatar raised its hand towards the demonic light in the sky, and its majestic ferocious chi and battle intent condensed into a chi pillar. With a loud bang, the collision between the ferocious chi pillar and the demonic light caused the entire spiritual chi vein to tremble like never before. The terrifying shockwave spread out, and even the forbidden sky prides had to channel their spiritual power to resist it. In the end, the ferocious chi broke through the demonic light and landed on the purple demonic eye in the sky. With a loud bang, the demonic eye was destroyed. The divine ferocious avatar slowly dissipated. Chu Kuangren stood on the spot, breathing steadily and looking calm as if he had not exhausted any of his energy. Its foundation was so terrifying that it had reached an unimaginable level. Gulp. Countless people gulped, feeling that the scene before them was too unbelievable. Exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, infallible tormented physique, 2 supreme Taoist physiques, coupled with the foundation brought by that supreme sage physique, his physical strength. What a monster! Even the forbidden sky prides were a little shocked. The power that Chu Kuangren had displayed had almost reached the limit of what they could imagine for a sky pride. Is this all the so-called forbidden sky prides are capable of? Chu Kuangren said calmly with a hint of disappointment in his tone. He felt that he had already relaxed his standards. He did not expect anyone in the same generation to force him to go all out, but at least someone that he could take seriously, right? In the end, be it Jiandaozi by Hongyu or the ancient ferocious beast, the 9-headed snakelet, these forbidden prodigies who stood at the pinnacle of prodigies, did not even make him use his full strength. Noticing the disappointment in Chu Kuangren's words, Jiandaozi and the other forbidden sky prides could not help but frown, feeling extremely resentful. Boom! At this moment, a figure flew down from the sky, smashing a huge crater on the ground. That figure was none other than 9 Flames. At this moment, he was lying in a deep pit, and he was in an extremely sorry state. His body was covered in fine bloody wounds from the sword Qi. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's sword Qi clone was hovering in the air above the crater. His face was cold as if he was a god that stood high above. Damn it! Damn it! Rage, unwillingness, and disbelief filled Nine Flames' eyes. He was the ancient beast clan's forbidden prodigy. His combat strength was among the top of the forbidden sky prides. Yet he could not even defeat a single sword Qi clone of Chu Kuangren. That was just too much. Those who noticed this were secretly shocked as they became even more fearful of Chu Kuangren. Is this guy really a sky pride? Could he be that undying old monster in disguise? Impossible. Those old monsters would never lay their hands on these sky prides. With such combat strength, even Qin Tianqian, the Qin family's so-called reincarnation of the great emperor, is no match for him. Sword Dao, Runic Dao, Buddhist Dao. What Dao is he walking on? The sky prides discussed among themselves. Looking at that white robe, they felt that they would never be able to forget what happened today for the rest of their lives. One person alone had suppressed 5 forbidden sky prides to the point where they could not even lift their heads. His brilliance was unparalleled. I'll say it again. I want all the treasures in this entire earth vein. Now, do any of you have any objections? Chu Kuangren's gaze swept across the crowd, and his piercingly cold, domineering aura filled the air, making it hard for them to breathe. If they were on a different level from the forbidden sky prides, then the forbidden sky prides were on a different level from Chu Kuangren. They did not even dare to provoke the forbidden sky prides, let alone Chu Kuangren. Let's retreat. This person's strength is unbelievable. He's not someone we can fight against. The treasures may be good, but we need to be alive to enjoy them. The crowd looked at each other, and then retreated from the spiritual Qi earth vein. Not long after, the previously bustling spiritual Qi earth vein became empty. No one dared to step into it. Then, Chu Kuangren looked at Bai Hongyu, Wang Quan, and the other forbidden sky prides not far away. What, do you guys still want to continue? Chu Kuangren, aren't you afraid that you'll be attacked by all the orthodoxies in the Emperor's path once you leave this Thousand Wonders grotto? Wang Quan said with a cold gaze. Chu Kuangren sneered. What, you can't beat me, so you want to use your orthodoxies to pressure me? Is this how the forbidden sky prides act? Ganging up on me? Chu Kuangren was very familiar with such a scenario. He was already used to being ganged up on in the firmament star. So what if he had to do it again? As far as he knew, the strongest ones in the Emperor's path were the sovereigns. However, those sovereigns had lived for too long, so they were restricted by some kind of heavenly law in the Emperor's path. They could not simply attack the sky prides, or else they would enter the heavenly deterioration stage 5 state. It was because of this that Chu Kuangren dared to monopolize the spiritual Qi earth vein. Chu Kuangren, don't go overboard. Do you really want to go this far? Jian Daozi said in a deep voice. Do you think the swordsman and I have a chance? Chu Kuangren was even more amused by Jian Daozi's words. Without another word, he lifted his arm and unleashed a terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme. Final warning. Leave or die. The forbidden sky prides looked at each other. In the end, they had no choice but to grit their teeth and leave. Looking at the treasures all over the place, they were filled with reluctance, but there was nothing they could do. After the crowd left, Chu Kuangren spread his spiritual thought, and covered half of the spiritual Qi earth vein. As if an invisible hand had grabbed all the treasures, they flew towards him. Chu Kuangren opened his yin and yang ring, and countless treasures flew into it. The crowd was overwhelmed by the variety of supreme elixirs and spiritual fruits, and they swallowed their saliva. Look, that's the Emperor-grade supreme elixir, spiritual sky dragon wood. Rumor has it that this herb can greatly increase a cultivator's spiritual power limit. Not only the spiritual sky dragon wood, but there's also the mica crystals, the imperial sky herb. Oh my god. Even the worst of them is a boundary emperor-grade treasure. Now they've all been taken in by one person. Oh my god, this guy is just too terrifying. All the sky prides could only watch helplessly as the supreme elixirs flew into Chu Kuangren's yin and yang ring. They could not help but feel heartbroken. With so many supreme elixirs, even if Chu Kuangren only gave them a little, they would still be rich. However, Chu Kuangren did not leave any for them. He had eaten the meat, but he did not leave any for them. Chapter 549. This be *starred. Jian Daozi gritted his teeth in anger as he watched Chu Kuangren collect all the treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein. It was the same thing again. He felt like he had always been at a disadvantage ever since he met Chu Kuangren. First, he was defeated by Chu Kuangren with a single move. Then the white spirit divine fruit that he had painstakingly found was taken away by Chu Kuangren. Now the spiritual Qi earth vein that he and a few other forbidden sky prides had been occupied by Chu Kuangren alone. This person's combat strength is unimaginable. How does he have such combat strength? Jiu Yen looked at Chu Kuangren. The scenes of him being defeated by Chu Kuangren still lingering in his mind. A physical body that could suppress wild beasts. A sword Dao that was more profound than Jian Daozi's. A strange runic technique. And an endless stream of emperor techniques. Chu Kuangren's performance had exceeded their understanding of sky prides. They even wondered if Chu Kuangren's combat strength could rival an emperor. Although the forbidden sky prides were strong, most of them could only rival a boundary emperor. There was still a huge gap between them and an emperor. They had never heard of any forbidden sky prides who could rival an emperor. All the sky prides could only watch helplessly as Chu Kuangren looted all kinds of treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein. It was too torturous for them. At that moment, a few rays of light flew over from afar. These people exuded an extremely powerful aura that was no weaker than the forbidden sky prides. These people were two men and a woman. One of them was a naked man with a muscular upper body. His tan skin had a metallic luster to it, and there were two horns on his head. He had a nose ring on his nose, and he looked rather simple and honest. However, the murderous aura emanating from his body was not inferior to 9 flames at all. The other person was dressed in a black robe. His face was sickly pale, and his aura was indescribably creepy. Upon closer inspection, this young man's eyes were very demonic. They were like a pair of amethysts, and mysterious runic power would occasionally flash through them. The last one was a woman. She was extremely beautiful, with creamy skin, black hair that fell to her waist, and a slim figure. However, there was an indescribable indifference about her. It was not the kind of coldness that seemed to push people 1,000 miles away, but the kind of indifference that was not worth her attention. It's them, Niu Dali of the ancient demonic ox bloodline, Ziwuji of the land of runes, and the saintess of the 7 emotions sect, Lung Ningyu. Another 3 forbidden prodigies. It looks like there's going to be a good show to watch. The 3 of them aren't any weaker than Jian Daozi and the others. That's especially true of Ziwuji. His methods are extremely crafty and treacherous. The geniuses present couldn't help but be surprised to see the 3 forbidden geniuses. The 3 of them were also a little confused about what was happening. What did they see? A young man with extraordinary looks was collecting all the treasures in the spirit Qi earth vein, while the rest of the prodigies were just standing there and watching. There were even forbidden geniuses like Jian Daozi among them. This scene was strange no matter how one looked at it. What was going on? Were these sky prides not interested in the treasures in the spirit Qi earth vein? Hey 9 brains, what's going on here? Niu Dali of the demonic ox bloodline asked 9 flames with a questioning look. He was very blunt with his words. It seemed like he had known 9 flames for a long time, but their relationship did not seem to be that friendly. If you want to know, why don't you go look for that guy yourself? 9 flames snorted coldly. When he looked at Chu Kuangren, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. It was not only him, but the other sky prides felt the same way too. Although Niu Dali looked simple and honest, he was not stupid. He knew that Chu Kuangren was not someone to be trifled with. Although the treasures were tempting, he did not act recklessly. Ningyu, you're here? At that moment, when Jian Daozi saw Lung Ningyu, he tidied up his appearance and walked up to her with a warm smile on his face. The other sky prides were not too surprised to see him like that. The fact that Jian Daozi liked Lung Ningyu and was courting her was no secret among the sky prides on the emperor's path. However, what was surprising was that Lung Ningyu cultivated the supreme oblivion Dao, which made her indifferent to emotions. She did not understand love at all, let alone respond to Jian Daozi. Therefore, everything Jian Daozi did was mostly one-sided, and nothing good ever came out of it. Even so, he still persisted in using every method he could think of to impress her. Jian Daozi was an old bootlicker. Greetings, fellow Taoist Jian. Lung Mingyu looked at Jian Daozi for a moment, then replied in a flat voice. Jian Daozi was not surprised. It was obvious that he had experienced this kind of awkward situation many times in the past. In front of Lung Mingyu, he had long become thick-skinned. But then he suddenly realized something, and his expression changed. He realized that Lung Mingyu, who had always been harsh to men, no to anyone, had her eyes on Chu Kuangren the moment she appeared. Not only that, but there was also an indescribable meaning in her gaze. Ningyu. Is there anything I can help you with, fellow Taoist Jian? Lung Mingyu looked at Jian Daozi. Her gaze once again as cold as ice. Do you know Chu Kuangren? Are you talking about this fellow Taoist who's collecting the spiritual qi from the earth vein treasure? Yes, indeed, he saved my life. Lung Mingyu said calmly. Her gaze returned to Chu Kuangren, and an indescribable charm appeared in her eyes again. Jian Daozi's expression darkened at that moment. Ever since he first met Lung Mingyu, he had been deeply attracted to her temperament. Hence, he began to pursue her. However, so many years had passed, and it was to no avail. Lung Mingyu treated him like a stranger. Yet now, she was looking at Chu Kuangren with such a meaningful gaze. Her attitude was so different from how she treated other people, and it made Jian Daozi's heart burn with jealousy. It was the first time he felt so much hatred for someone. Not only had Chu Kuangren humiliated him multiple times, but he had also stolen his opportunities of fortune. Now he was going to steal the woman he loved. At that thought, Jian Daozi was so angry that he almost went crazy. The crowd of sky prides below also noticed that something was amiss. Their gazes moved back and forth between Chu Kuangren and Lung Mingyu. Dozens of scenarios of a hero saving a damsel in distress were already playing out in their minds. However, even if it was a hero saving a damsel in distress, Lung Mingyu, who was a cultivator of the Grand Wangqing Dao, should not have fallen for Chu Kuangren so easily. Could it be that Chu Kuangren is just too good-looking? Some of the cultivators stared at Chu Kuangren. The more they looked at him, the more they felt that he was a celestial being. His temperament and his looks completely outshone everyone else in the crowd. This man is indeed extraordinary. I bet 99% of the women in this world would be mesmerized by his face. Indeed. No wonder Lung Mingyu fell for him. It seems that even the Grand Wangqing Dao cannot resist Chu Kuangren. That face of his is just too heaven-defying. Tisktieste. Powerful, talented, and handsome. Who can resist him? Chapter 550. Lung Mingyu's strange behavior caused the crowd to speculate. Many of them looked at Chu Kuangren with envy and jealousy. Lung Mingyu was a cultivator of the Grand Wangqing Dao. Chu Kuangren's charm was obvious for someone like her to fall for him. TSK, I don't think there are many girls in this world that he can't conquer if he wants to. In the crowd, Zhang Hongying was amazed. She did not have that kind of feelings for Chu Kuangren. She only admired him. As expected of the man I like. It's a shame that I don't stand a chance with my status. In the crowd, Feng Yaorao looked at Chu Kuangren with infatuation in her eyes. However, she could not help but shake her head resentfully. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about what the crowd was thinking. He was still busy collecting the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein. The spiritual Qi Earth vein was tens of thousands of kilometers long. It was hard to imagine how many treasures it contained. Even with his mind power, it still took Chu Kuangren a lot of time to collect them. Just when Chu Kuangren had collected more than half of the treasures in the spiritual Qi Earth vein, the spiritual Qi Earth vein suddenly trembled again. Boom boom. The Earth vein trembled again, and at the end of it, another crack began to appear. Everyone looked at the crack with surprise in their eyes. What's going on? Has another treasure appeared? Oh my god, this is too scary. There are so many treasures and there's still more? What the hell is that? A ray of green light shone out from the crack, and a surge of green qi shot into the sky, forming a giant dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long. Some of the Sky Pride's expressions changed when they saw that. Earth chi into a dragon. Is this a dragon vein? Oh my god, a dragon vein. This is the best of all earth veins. What kind of treasure did it give birth to? The earth chi that seeped out from the crevice transformed into a dancing dragon, then exploded in the air, mixed into the clouds, and dyed most of the sky a vibrant green. At the same time, the treasure hidden in the crevice was revealed. It was a ball of green spiritual liquid that was about the height of a person. It was surrounded by countless Taoist rhymes with dragons and phoenixes dancing in the sky. When this ball of green spirit liquid appeared, it gave off an aura of vitality. Hundreds of flowers bloomed around it, and all kinds of plants grew wildly. In the blink of an eye, with the green liquid as the center, the area within 100 miles turned into a lush forest. This kind of fortune shocked everyone present. That's what elemental essence. Jiandaozi looked at the green liquid with shock. Earth vein essence referred to the essence within an earth vein. Generally speaking, very few earth veins could produce earth vein essence. Even if there was, the profound chi that was produced would only be the size of a fist. Such a huge amount of profound chi, not to mention seeing it, no one present had even heard of it. Just this ball of earth vein essence was comparable to all the treasures in this spiritual chi earth vein. If I can absorb this earth vein essence, my battle prowess will increase by at least 2 levels, and I will definitely reach the battle prowess of a martial emperor. It's not easy to absorb so many earth vein essence. It'll take at least a year, but to reach the battle prowess of an emperor within a year, this is a great opportunity. Not only that, this earth vein essence is the best healing elixir in this world. No matter how serious the injury is, just a few drops of earth vein essence will be enough to revive you. How many lives would this ball of earth vein essence be worth? Everyone stared at the ball of earth vein essence with burning eyes. Even Lung Ningyu's eyes showed a hint of emotion. Chu Kuangren, you can't monopolize this earth vein essence. 9 Flames could not hold it in any longer. He transformed into his true form and rushed towards the earth vein essence, opening his mouth wide to swallow it. Before this, they could only watch as Chu Kuangren collected the other treasures in the spiritual chi earth vein. However, now that they saw this ball of earth vein essence, they could no longer sit still. It was too valuable. The essence of the wood elemental vein was simply too precious. Even an emperor would be tempted by it, let alone these sky prides. A loser dares to touch my things? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Then he channeled his mind power and formed a huge silver-white rune in the void. The spatial freeze rune. The rune landed and immediately froze 9 Flames' body. Following that, a terrifying palm force poured out like a torrent and landed fiercely on Jiu Yan's body, sending his massive body flying. Even with his ferocious beast body, he could not help but vomit blood under such an attack. Rune. What a powerful spatial rune. Not far away, the forbidden sky pride from the runic land. Ziwuji's eyes flashed with a demonic purple runic light as he revealed a look of surprise. Everyone, I'm sure I don't have to explain how precious this earth vein essence is. You won't let Chu Kuangren monopolize it, will you? Now that we have a few more forbidden sky prides with us, we might be able to defeat Chu Kuangren if we attack together, Jian Daozi said to the crowd. He hated Chu Kuangren to the core. Now that he had a chance to attack Chu Kuangren, he would not let it go so easily. His words made by Hongyu Wang Quan, and the others restless. Meanwhile, Niu Dali of the Ox Demon bloodline had a strange look on his face. Are you kidding me? Attack together? You guys want to attack him together? After all, everyone present was a forbidden sky pride. Since when did the forbidden sky prides need to attack one person together? This was simply a fantasy story. Niu Dali cut the crap. This guy isn't someone you can defeat alone. You'll only stand a chance if you attack him together. 9 Flames, who had been blasted away, leaped into the air with ferocious chi surrounding him. His 9 heads let out a low growl. Niu Dali was a little shocked. Even you say that, 9 heads? He looked at Chu Kuangren curiously, and then a smile appeared on his face. Now I'm curious how strong this person is. Just as Jian Daozi had said, they could not just watch the earth vein essence fall into Chu Kuangren's hands. Boom. Niodali took a step forward and crossed the distance of a few hundred meters to land in front of Chu Kuangren. His punch created a terrifying shockwave in the void. Chu Kuangren did not take a step back. Instead, he unleashed a punch of his own. The two fists collided with each other like two meteorites crashing into each other, causing a loud explosion. The ground beneath Chu Kuangren and Niodali's feet instantly caved in, forming a huge crater. With the two of them as the epicenter, cracks quickly spread out and covered a radius of a few hundred meters. Each crack was dozens of meters deep, like a canyon, and the surrounding landscape changed drastically. What a powerful physical strength. It's not any weaker than mine. Is this guy really a human? Niodali's expression changed slightly. He was from the ancient ox demon bloodline, and his physical strength was one of the best among the wild beasts. Yet now he could not even suppress a human. He could feel that Chu Kuangren's slender and skinny body contained a terrifying amount of power. It was a power that was not any weaker than his own. In fact, it was even more terrifying. Chapter 551. Niodali's and Chu Kuangren's fists collided like meteorites, and terrifying energies poured out. The surrounding terrain was affected by this terrifying energy, and a huge crater and crisscrossing rift valley appeared. Chu Kuangren looked at Niodali in front of him and smiled faintly. Your physical body is stronger than that little snake. Little snake? Niodali was stunned for a moment before he laughed. I didn't expect you to call the ferocious beast, the nine-headed snakelet, a little snake. Good, I like your temper. As he spoke, he swung his fists and unleashed one punch after another. Each punch contained a terrifying amount of energy, and it was as if a meteor was falling from the sky. The countless fist energies were like a meteor shower. Chu Kuangren did not back down in the face of such an attack. He unleashed his supreme sage physique and exchanged dozens of punches with Niodali. Both of them were forced back. That was strong. Niodali's mouth was bleeding as he clutched his chest. He felt like 2 or 3 of his ribs were broken. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren was still dressed in his white robe. He patted the dust off his robe, and he was unscathed. At that moment, a huge shadow appeared in the sky above him. A huge red seal descended from the sky, like 100,000 mountains. It was extremely terrifying. It was Bai Hongyu's heaven-worshipping seal. Chu Kuangren chuckled as an extremely powerful ferocious qi erupted from his body, and a huge divine ferocious avatar was formed. The divine ferocious avatar blocked the heaven-worshipping seal. Seizing this opportunity, Jian Daozi and Wang Quan made their moves. A burst of cold sword-based Daoist rhyme erupted, and the terrifying sword qi turned into a storm that swept towards Chu Kuangren. Behind Wang Quan, a 5-colored radiance circulated as the 5 elements force formed a giant hand that grabbed at Chu Kuangren. The sword qi and the 5 elements force attacked Chu Kuangren from both sides. Ha, a bunch of losers. If I can defeat you once, I can always crush you under my feet. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. With the heaven-worshipping seal in one hand, he raised his other hand and gathered his spiritual power. He unleashed an emperor technique, the heaven's sorrow palm, and a black palm seal flew towards the 5 elements torrent. Immediately afterward, sword qi shot out from his body and turned into a sword qi clone. The sword qi clone slashed out with its sword, slicing through the sword qi that filled the sky. It then transformed into a beam of sword light that shot straight for Jian Daozi. With a loud explosion, the 5 elements torrent and the black palm energy were completely shattered. Chu Kuangren let out a low growl as the power of the divine ferocious avatar erupted, forcefully repelling the heaven-worshipping seal. Devilish Eye of Oblivion. Tu Heng activated his demonic eye again, and a ray of demonic light shot out towards Chu Kuangren, colliding with the divine ferocious avatar once again. Both sides were forced to retreat. Not far away, Niodali let out a low roar. Waves of spiritual energy rippled out, and his body rapidly expanded, turning into his original form. It was a black demonic bull that was several hundred zhang long. Moo! The demonic bull let out a low roar, and with a stomp of its front foot, the earth cracked and the mountains collapsed. The demonic bull charged towards Chu Kuangren with a terrifying aura that shook the mountains and rivers. It was as if it could easily crush the 10,000 mountains in front of it. Chu Kuangren pushed his divine ferocious avatar to its limits and unleashed his ferocious chi and battle intent. He reached out with both hands and grabbed onto the demonic bull's horns. I'm not afraid of anyone when it comes to brute force. Chu Kuangren smiled and took 2 steps back from the impact of the demonic bull. Then, the divine ferocious avatar let out a low growl and lifted the demonic bull above its head before slamming it into 9 flames, who was charging at it from afar. The 2 wild beasts crashed into each other and rolled into the mountains nearby. How terrifying! In the sky, a pair of cold purple eyes stared at Chu Kuangren. It was Ziwuji from the runic grounds. He had been observing and did not make a move. Lung Ningyu was the same as him. Brother Lung, aren't you tempted by this earth vein essence stone? Ziwuji asked. I don't know what it means to be tempted, but if you're asking me if I want this earth vein essence stone, I want it. Then why aren't you making a move? Is it because this person saved your life before? Ziwuji said playfully. I may be a cultivator of the Oblivion Tao, but I understand that it's not good to be ungrateful. Therefore, I will not participate in this battle, Lung Ningyu said. At the same time, she looked at Chu Kuangren in surprise. She noticed that the Heaven's Sorrow Palm that Chu Kuangren used was similar to the Emperor techniques from the 7 Emotions sect. Even if you're not making a move, I do want to meet this person. Ziwuji chuckled. Then, he raised his hand and a huge amount of spiritual power gushed out from his palm. In the void, streaks of silver-white patterns appeared. These patterns intertwined and condensed into a mysterious silver-white rune. Spatial Freeze Rune. Ziwuji let out a low roar, and the giant rune headed towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren sensed the rune, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. Interesting. I can't believe someone knows how to use the Spatial Freeze Rune. As soon as the freeze rune landed, the space around Chu Kuangren was instantly sealed. The others' eyes lit up when they saw that. This is our chance. Heaven-worshipping sword art. 5 elements capturing technique. Demonic Eye of Oblivion. Fire and water divine ability Flame Snake. Demonic Ox Fist of Strength. The 5 forbidden sky prides attacked almost at the same time. Different types of Taoist rhymes erupted and swept out with majestic power. Even an emperor would not dare to say that they could easily block such power. Now you guys can make me show my true colors. Chu Kuangren smirked and the supreme foundation level within his body erupted with a dazzling brilliance. As he channeled his spiritual power, the transcendent coalescence Taoist physique, infallible tormented physique, and exquisite 9 orifices sword heart converged and formed an incomparably vast power. Waves of spiritual power surged out from Chu Kuangren like a tidal wave. The spatial freeze rune was shattered. The descendant self-sword was unsheathed, and a dazzling purple sword ray instantly erupted. It contained the power of Chu Kuangren's supreme foundation level, and the fusion of his 3 supreme Taoist physiques. The heaven-worshipping sword art's sword ray was the first to collide with the purple sword ray, but it was instantly disintegrated. Following that was the demonic ray, the power of water and fire, the power of the 5 elements, and the demonic ox fist force. The killing techniques unleashed by the forbidden sky prides were all shattered in the face of this sword ray. The impact of the collision spread out, and the few forbidden sky prides who bore the brunt of it were all sent flying and spitting out blood. Even those with strong physical bodies like the demonic ox and 9 flames were heavily injured. Bai Hongyu, Tu Heng, and Wang Quan were left in a worse state. If they had not taken out their defensive treasures at the last moment, they would have been at risk of dying on the spot. Not far away, Jian Daozi, who was battling the sword chi clone, was shocked by the attack. Due to his distraction, his arm was cut off by the clone. Then the sword chi clone exploded and turned into a majestic sword shadow, which cut Jian Daozi in half on the spot. Jian Daozi's clone had fallen. The remaining forbidden sky prides looked at Chu Kuangren with indescribable fear in their eyes. Even with so many forbidden sky prides attacking, they were still no match for Chu Kuangren. In fact, Chu Kuangren did not even sustain a single injury. What kind of terrifying combat strength was that? Chapter 552. Chu Kuangren single-handedly defeated a few more forbidden sky prides. His invincible aura was like that of a deity king that shook the heavens and earth. He stood in the air and looked at Ziwuji, who had only used one freeze rune, and smirked. "Your eyes look pretty good." He used his eye of revelation to analyze this person. He realized that this person came from the land of runes, and was an expert in runic techniques. His eyes, especially, contained a very powerful runic energy. "I'm impressed by your combat strength," Ziwuji said as he looked at Chu Kuangren's imposing aura with a serious expression. So many forbidden sky prides could not defeat this person, so he alone was no match for him. "Do you want to fight?" Chu Kuangren asked. "I saw that you used the spatial freeze rune just now, so you must be an expert in runic Dao. Why don't we use runic Dao to determine the winner?" Ziwuji suggested. Many sky prides cursed him for being shameless when they heard his suggestion. As the forbidden sky pride of the land of runes, Ziwuji's runic techniques were almost invincible in the Emperor's path. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren was, he had so many cultivation techniques. How could a single runic technique compare to Ziwuji, who specialized in runic research? At that thought, everyone looked at Chu Kuangren, thinking that he would not agree. However, they hoped that he would agree. Even if Ziwuji won in the end, they would not care as long as they could defeat Chu Kuangren. "That's amazing. You can choose which technique to use to determine the winner?" Chu Kuangren could not help but chuckle. Ziwuji was speechless for a moment. Indeed, Chu Kuangren had the absolute upper hand now. No one there was a match for him, so he could do whatever he wanted. He did not have to care about Ziwuji at all. "However, it seems like you're very confident in your runic techniques to make such a suggestion," Chu Kuangren said. "I'm a little confident. Since you want to use runic techniques to determine the winner, I'll grant you your wish." "Oh, so you agree?" Ziwuji's eyes lit up. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to agree. "Yes, but since you're so confident, why don't we make a bet?" "What bet?" "I heard that the Land of Runes Myriad Rune Catalog records all the runes since ancient times. If you lose, I want the Myriad Rune Catalog." That was the reason why Chu Kuangren agreed to it. He wanted to obtain the 10,000 Talisman Catalog to increase his talisman techniques. "That's impossible. The 10,000 Symbol Catalog is the treasure of the Land of Runes. It's impossible for it to be leaked easily. Furthermore, the catalog is in the Land of Runes. I don't have it on me." "Forget it then," Chu Kuangren said calmly. Following that, the sword-based Taoist rhyme emanated from his body, and a gigantic sword shadow formed in the void. The sword shadow exuded an incomparably sharp aura, and Ziwuji felt as if his body was being enveloped by that aura, causing him to feel a stabbing pain. Without a doubt, if this sword were to descend, then even he would absolutely not have a good time. Chu Kuangren's meaning was very clear. Since using runic techniques to determine the outcome of the battle would not benefit him in any way, why should he do so? "I'll kill you with one strike, take the treasure and leave. Isn't that nice?" "Please wait a moment," Ziwuji shouted and said. "Although I don't have the original 10,000 Talisman Catalog with me, I do have a rubbed version here. Aside from a few core forbidden runic techniques, the rest of the runes are recorded in it. I'm willing to use that as a wager." Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren slowly retracted his sword chi and pondered for a while. "That's fine too. All right, then it's settled. You and I will use runic techniques to determine the outcome of the battle. If I'm lucky enough to win, then this wood elemental essence will belong to me. If I lose, then I'll give you the rubbed version of the 10,000 Talisman Catalog," Ziwuji said as a demonic purple light began to swirl in his eyes. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. "Sure. Bring it on then." Ziwuji laughed, looking as if he was determined to win. In his heart, he was already cursing Chu Kuangren for being an idiot. When it came to runic techniques, no one could compare to the Land of Runes. As the forbidden sky pride of the Land of Runes, Ziwuji's runic techniques were renowned throughout the Emperor's path. He did not know where Chu Kuangren learned some runic techniques from, but if he wanted to compete with Ziwuji, he was simply overestimating himself. Ziwuji was a professional. Ziwuji then began to channel his spiritual power, and a mysterious rune began to form at the tip of his finger. That rune then turned into a giant fireball that flew towards Chu Kuangren. Its power was no less than that of a top-tier sage ruler. The fact that Ziwuji was able to condense such a rune so easily was a testament to his mastery of runes. However, just as the giant fireball was about to reach Chu Kuangren, a golden rune condensed in the void and turned into a golden shield. The fireball landed on the shield and exploded. It could not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. Ziwuji was a little surprised. It was not that Chu Kuangren had blocked his attack, but the way his opponent condensed the rune was very unique. He did not even use his own spiritual power. Instead, he directly condensed the spiritual qi between heaven and earth. What kind of runic technique is this? Ziwuji had been in the runic lands for a long time, but he had never heard of anyone who could activate runes in such a way. Why did you stop? Let's continue. Let me see what the runic lands are capable of. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Even Ziwuji would not have guessed that a talent like mind power existed in this world. After all, it was an inheritance that had been lost a long time ago. Be careful, sir. Ziwuji continued to attack. He gathered his spiritual power, and lines of runes began to form at the tip of his finger. The green runes condensed and turned into wind ropes that flew towards Chu Kuangren, intending to entangle him. However, they were all cut in half by the runic swords that Chu Kuangren had condensed. Following that, lines of azure runes appeared in front of Ziwuji. From them, bolts of lightning energy erupted and shot towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren stood still and unleashed his runic swords one after another. Wind Frost Rune, Lightning Rune, Windstorm Rune. Runes used the power of heaven and earth. Without a doubt, Ziwuji was an expert in this field. The lines of runes turned into all sorts of powerful natural powers that swept towards Chu Kuangren. Lightning, wind, fire, frost. Endless runes were cast from Ziwuji's hands, turning into all sorts of natural powers that swept towards Chu Kuangren. It was extremely dazzling. The surrounding sky prides could not help but be amazed at this rare rune battle. As expected of the forbidden sky pride of the runic lands, his runic techniques are really powerful. Indeed, I'm afraid there aren't many people in this world who can match up to him. Even if there are, it would be those old monsters from the runic lands. However, the crowd soon realized that Chu Kuangren was not at a disadvantage against Ziwuji at all. No matter what kind of runes the other party used, he could block them with his rune swords. He just stood there with a calm look on his face. I can't believe this person's runic techniques are this powerful. Wang Quan, Bai Hongyu and the others were shocked. They could not find any weakness in Chu Kuangren. Physical body, spiritual power, sword Dao, runes. This person was proficient in all of them. Chapter 553. The runic battle was incomparably beautiful, and everyone was dazzled by the unique battle. Meanwhile, the battle between Chu Kuangren and Ziwuji was getting more and more intense. Ziwuji continuously used all kinds of runic techniques. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren stood still and easily nullified all of his techniques. Spatial Freeze Rune. Ziwuji activated his spiritual power, and the silver-white runes condensed into a huge mystical rune in the void. The spatial rune appeared again, sealing off the space around Chu Kuangren. Then countless runes swarmed towards Chu Kuangren. Seeing that, Chu Kuangren raised his hand and formed a huge runic sword to shatter the spatial freeze rune. Is that all you've got? Chu Kuangren said calmly. His spiritual thought moved, and a huge rune formed above Ziwuji. It contained a majestic force of mountains and rivers, and it pressed down. It was the Mountain River Talisman. Ziwuji quickly formed dozens of green runes, forming a terrifying gust of wind that swept towards the Mountain River Talisman. When the two forces collided, the wind and the Mountain River Talisman dissipated. The show has officially begun. Ziwuji smiled, and a demonic purple light flashed across his eyes. Spiritual power gushed out, and lines of mysterious runes condensed in the air, turning into runic swords. These runic swords were all used by Chu Kuangren before. Oh, you used those eyes to copy my runic swords? Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had used the Eye of Revelation to analyze Ziwuji, so he had some understanding of his opponent's techniques. Your eyesight is not bad. My purple talisman demonic eyes can copy any rune. Now all the runes you know are mine. Ziwuji laughed, and with a raise of his hand, countless runic swords shot towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren also formed runic swords around him and shot them out. The runic swords streaked across the sky like meteors, colliding in the air and exploding into beautiful energy sparks. Mountain River Talisman. Ziwuji formed a huge rune that pressed towards Chu Kuangren. It was the same rune that Chu Kuangren had used before. The crowd could not help but be shocked. Ziwuji's eyes are a little too monstrous. He can actually copy runes. Yes, such a method is too useful in the Tao of Talismans. In the future, he will definitely become the #1 in the Tao of Talismans. Purple symbol demon eyes. I've never heard of such a technique before. Some of the geniuses present had also cultivated runes before. When they saw Ziwuji's ability to copy runes, they were extremely shocked. They understood what this ability meant. It should be known that if a charm master wanted to learn a kind of charm, they would need to study and carve it day and night. Even the lowest level charm would need to be carved thousands of times before they could master it. However, Ziwuji's ability could instantly copy the charm that others had spent countless efforts to learn. This kind of ability was the dream of all rune masters in the world. But at the same time, this ability was no different from a nightmare for rune masters who did not have this ability. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and activated the runic sword, shattering the Mountain River Talisman. It is indeed an interesting ability. Chu Kuangren chuckled. The interesting part is yet to come. Ziwuji laughed. Suddenly, an incomparably huge green rune appeared in the void and wrapped around Chu Kuangren. The surrounding wood elemental spiritual energy was also gathering towards this rune. In an instant, a large amount of wood-based spiritual chi condensed into countless branches that gushed out from the rune. The countless branches were like tentacles that stretched towards Chu Kuangren. Even if he activated the runic sword to cut them apart, it was useless. These branches regenerated at an alarming rate. Once one was cut apart, 2 more would quickly grow out. It was almost an endless stream. Ha! This is the world of trees rune. It's the best wood-based rune. And this place just so happens to be a wood-based spiritual chi vein. There's no shortage of wood-based spiritual chi here. No matter how hard you struggle, it's useless. Just stay trapped inside. Ziwuji laughed. He already felt that victory was within his grasp. He had been secretly drawing this world of trees rune ever since he battled Chu Kuangren. Now he had finally succeeded in sealing Chu Kuangren. Ziwuji believed that under such circumstances, he could even trap 10 forbidden sky prides. Once he trapped Chu Kuangren, victory would not be far away. Brother Chu, do you want to admit defeat? If not, you can choose to use other methods. I don't mind. Although it sounded nice, Ziwuji was actually reminding Chu Kuangren that this was a battle of runes. If he used other methods, he would automatically admit defeat. Heh, against you, I can use both my hands and legs. Chu Kuangren said calmly. In fact, he had been using his mind power to condense the rune. It was not an exaggeration to say that Ziwuji was using both his hands and legs. Have a taste of this rune, the destruction rune. As soon as he said that, Chu Kuangren's spiritual thought surged, and lines of mysterious runic patterns spread out with him as the center. A huge white rune condensed and covered the giant world of trees rune. The runic power between the two started to dissipate. What's going on? What rune is this? Ziwuji was shocked. Purple light flashed in his eyes as he tried to copy the rune that Chu Kuangren had used. However, he discovered that this annihilation talisman was simply too profound. He could not copy the Taoist rhymes that were contained within the patterns. This is the mysterious rune. Ziwuji's pupils shrunk. Runes were the power to control the nature. However, there was one type of rune that contained a power that was completely different from what most people knew about nature. That type of rune was mysterious and secretive. That was why rune masters called it the mysterious rune. The destruction talisman that Chu Kuangren had unleashed contained one of the mysterious powers of the runes. That was the rune power that his purple rune demonic eyes could not copy. Even in the rune lands, there aren't many types of runes that contain the mysterious rune. I can't believe this guy has mastered the mysterious rune. D***. This mysterious rune seems to be able to disintegrate the power of runes. Ziwuji's expression changed. The appearance of the mysterious rune had completely disrupted his rhythm. After Chu Kuangren disintegrated the tree world's runes, he smiled and said, "Aren't you very good at copying? But I wonder if your copying speed is fast enough." As soon as he said that, a huge amount of mind power poured out and enveloped the heavens and earth. Under the guidance of his mind power, an endless amount of spiritual qi quickly gathered. In the void, a ray of fire appeared. It was a flame rune. A ray of frost formed. It was a frost rune. In the natural world, all kinds of power appeared in the void in the form of runes. Countless talismans densely filled the sky like a vast sea of talismans, emitting boundless pressure from the talismans. Under such an aura, even Ziwuji could not help but tremble. There were too many. The number of runes that Chu Kuangren had condensed was too many. So many that it was unimaginable. Even if he could copy the runes 10 or 100 times faster, he could not catch up to Chu Kuangren's speed of condensing runes. I've lost. Chapter 554. I've lost. Ziwuji swallowed a mouthful of saliva and directly admitted defeat. The domineering aura emanating from the tens of thousands of runes that hung in the sky was too terrifying. Once all of them landed on him, it was not something that he could resist. Not to mention that Chu Kuangren had mastered the mysterious rune technique. That kind of power was what he feared the most. When Ziwuji admitted defeat, everyone couldn't help but gasp, and their faces were filled with shock. It was not surprising that Chu Kuangren could defeat Ziwuji. After all, so many forbidden sky prides were no match for Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren defeated Ziwuji, using runic techniques. That was something that shocked everyone. The forbidden sky pride from the land of runes was defeated by someone using runic techniques. Was there anything more unbelievable than this? The crowd could not believe it. However, the truth was right in front of them, so they had no choice but to believe it. This monster, what else can defeat him? Xiao Jingchen murmured. He knew about Chu Kuangren earlier than the others, so he understood how terrifying he was. Chu Kuangren had swept through everything along the way. His invincible aura was unprecedented. He almost suspected that even the emperors from the emperor's path would not be able to defeat Chu Kuangren. After Ziwuji admitted defeat, Chu Kuangren dispersed his mind power. In the void, the countless runes turned into specks of light and gradually dissipated. "All right, it's time for you to fulfill your promise," Chu Kuangren said. Ziwuji reluctantly took out a thick booklet from his yin and yang ring. It was the copy of the Myriad Talisman catalog. Chu Kuangren took it and looked at it. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he kept it in his yin and yang ring. He planned to study it when he had the time. Then Chu Kuangren looked at the earth vein essence not far away. Under the envious and jealous gazes of the crowd, he walked towards the earth vein essence. The closer he got, the more he could feel the power contained within it. Without a doubt, this was a treasure that was no less valuable than the white spirit fruit. Once I refine the white spirit fruit and this earth vein opportunity of fortune, my strength will definitely increase again. At that time, even if a monarch realm expert comes personally, I'm still fully confident that I can defeat him. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Then he raised his hand and stored the essence of the wood earth vein into his yin and yang ring. Damn it! The rest of the sky prides cursed in their hearts upon seeing this. Now that things had come to this, they could no longer snatch the treasures from Chu Kuangren. Thinking of this, many prodigies left to look for opportunities in other places. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to collect the remaining treasures in the earth vein and leave, the 7 emotion sex maiden sage, Lung Ningyu, walked up to him from afar. "What's the matter?" Chu Kuangren looked at Lung Ningyu and asked. "I am Lung Ningyu, thank you for saving my life a few days ago." "You're welcome. It's just convenient," Chu Kuangren said. He did not intend to converse with the other party any further. Back then, he only wanted the frosty python's horn. Saving Lung Ningyu was just a matter of convenience. He didn't expect anything in return. Besides, would a cultivator of the Grand Wangqing Dao know what gratitude was? It's like this. Brother Chu, I saw you use an emotion-inducing cultivation technique during your battle. It seems to be very similar to a few of the 7 emotions sect's cultivation techniques. I wonder if you're related to the 7 emotions sect? Lung Ningyu asked. Upon hearing this, Chu Kuangren pondered. What kind of relationship could he have with the 7 emotions sect? An emotion-related cultivation technique. Could it be? Chu Kuangren seemed to have thought of something and said, Brother Lung, do you know similar emperor techniques? He used his eye of revelation to look at Lung Ningyu, but he did not find any emotion-related emperor techniques. It made sense. She was a cultivator of the Grand Wangqing Dao, so how could she know such a technique? Sure enough, Lung Ningyu shook her head. I don't cultivate those emperor techniques, but there are some people in my 7 emotions sect who cultivate them. I feel that the emperor technique that you have is related to my 7 emotions sect. I hope that after leaving the Thousand Strange Cave, you can come to my 7 emotions sect for a chat. As she spoke, Lung Ningyu took out a token that was carved out of white jade and handed it to Chu Kuangren. The Sky Prides who had yet to leave could not help but gasp in amazement when they saw this. It was their first time seeing the maiden sage, who had abandoned her love, inviting a young man to the 7 emotions sect. TSK, Lung Ningyu did not even spare a glance at Jian Daozi's shameless pursuers. Now that Chu Kuangren is obviously not interested in Lung Ningyu, this maiden sage has taken the initiative to invite him to the 7 emotions sect. What an eye-opener. Poor Jian Daozi. He's been courting his goddess for so long, but now she's going to fall into someone else's arms. The crowd discussed among themselves. However, Chu Kuangren did not pay any attention to these discussions at all. He was fiddling with the white jade token that he had just received from Lung Ningyu. There was still a lingering warmth and a faint fragrance on it, and his eyes revealed a thoughtful look. It's the 7 emotions sect. Since Brother Lung wants to invite me, it would be impolite of me to decline. After the Thousand Wonders cave closes, I'll personally pay you a visit. All right, I'll welcome you with open arms when the time comes. Lung Ningyu nodded slightly before she turned around and left. After she left, the other Sky Prides also dispersed one by one. Chu Kuangren collected all the treasures in the earth vein. Not long after, he heard footsteps coming from behind him. Jian Changfeng walked up to him and knelt on one knee. Jian Changfeng greets you, master. All right, you may rise. He took out an emperor-grade supreme elixir from his yin and yang ring and said, You've done well in harvesting the white spirit divine fruit. Take this emperor-grade supreme elixir and cultivate it. Jian Changfeng did not immediately go forward to take the elixir. Instead, he said, It's my duty to work for you, master. I dare not ask for a reward. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. Jian Changfeng looked serious, and it was obvious that he was speaking from the bottom of his heart. It seemed that the Mastery Soul Slave seal had completely transformed Jian Changfeng. Since I've given it to you, take it. Thank you, master. Jian Changfeng took the supreme elixir with joy in his eyes. Although he was extremely loyal to Chu Kuangren, he still yearned for an emperor-grade supreme elixir. This supreme elixir was many times more valuable than the one Jian Changfeng had given him. It was enough to increase his strength by a lot. You can move freely in the Thousand Wonders Paradise. Once you're out, return to the swordsman and continue to monitor them, especially Jian Daozi's movements. Yes, master. Jian Changfeng then stood up and left. Not long after, Chu Kuangren called Shang Qingxue and Murong Xian over. Both of them had witnessed everything from a mountain peak not far away. They knew that Chu Kuangren had taken all the treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein. I've done it. The smile on Shang Qingxue's face was so bright that she almost ran up to Chu Kuangren and hugged him. Murong Xian was slightly better than her, but he could not hide the excitement on his face either. With so many treasures, this trip to the Thousand Wonders Paradise is already very satisfying. Once I get out, I'll need to find a place to properly digest them, Chu Kuangren murmured. Chapter 555. Chu Kuangren kept all the treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein. and the news of him single-handedly fighting against so many forbidden sky prides also spread. Many people were shocked by his combat strength, but there were also many who expressed doubts. Regardless, the name Chu Kuangren had spread throughout the sky pride's circle in the emperor's path. That was an undeniable fact. However, to Chu Kuangren, these were just empty titles. He did not care. Just because he did not care, it did not mean that others did not care. Especially those forbidden sky prides who were defeated by Chu Kuangren. The news of their ambush on Chu Kuangren and their defeat had spread like wildfire among the sky pride's community. Many people were talking about it. Chu Kuangren had become famous. However, he had stepped on them to get to where he was, and that made them extremely unhappy. Not only that, but Chu Kuangren had also snatched an entire spiritual Qi earth vein from their hands. This was something that they would not let go of easily. Chu Kuangren, you may have taken so many treasures from us, but are you sure you can keep them? Somewhere in the Thousand Wonders Paradise, Bai Hongyu of the Bai family snorted coldly. She held a jade scroll in her hand and crushed it. Suddenly, a strange ripple traveled across space, out of the paradise, and went to the Bai family. On the other side, Wang Quan cast a technique, and that technique turned into a line of small words before it dissipated into flames. The Wang family, who was hundreds of millions of miles away, immediately received the message. Chu Kuangren, you killed my brother Wang Tianting and took my treasures. I will not let this matter rest. A cold glare shot out from Wang Quan's eyes. He threw a punch, and the terrifying 5 elements light rolled in his hand, hitting a mountain in the distance. The entire mountain exploded with a boom, turning into countless dust. Almost at the same time, inside a cave, the forbidden sky pride of the demon tribe, Tu Heng, was recuperating from his battle with Chu Kuangren. The demonic qi on his body gradually receded, and a hint of hatred appeared in his eyes. Chu Kuangren, you first stopped the demonic realm from descending into the firmament world, and now you've injured me in the Emperor's path and taken my opportunity of fortune. You deserve to die. You're just a sky pride from the outside world, and you have no background in the Emperor's path. So what if you have the treasures? I want to see how you're going to keep them. Tu Heng sneered, and then he withdrew a black crystal. Light flowed within the crystal, and then an old figure appeared. Young Master Tu Heng, did something happen for you to take the initiative to contact us? I need you. Tu Heng narrated everything that had happened in the Thousand Wonders Paradise. Within the sword race, a terrifying energy fluctuation suddenly spread out from a certain secluded cultivation area, and a furious roar spread through the entire sword race. Countless swords of the sword race began to tremble. Many cultivators of the sword race looked towards the source of the roar in shock. That was where Jian Daozi was. Just what had happened to cause Jian Daozi to be so furious? Where Jian Daozi was in seclusion. Chu Kuangren, how dare you destroy my clone? You deserve to die 10,000 times over. There's also the white spirit divine fruit, the earth string quintessence energy, and so many other treasures. You're dreaming if you think you can take them all for yourself. Jian Daozi's face was a bit vicious as sword chi swirled around him, leaving numerous sword scars on the mountain walls around him. He took out his communication artifact. Contact the sword race patriarch. Various forces were making their moves. The most terrifying thing about the Forbidden Sky Prides was not only their own strength and talent, but also their background. The trip to the Thousand Wonders Paradise was coming to an end. On this day, the entire sky of the Thousand Wonders Paradise began to change. Like a mirror, it reflected the scenery of the entire Thousand Wonders Paradise. An intense spatial ripple spread out from the void, covering the entire grotto heaven. Everyone who saw this knew that the Thousand Wonders Paradise was about to close. It's time to leave. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to leave when the Thousand Wonders Paradise closes, Morong Xian said as he prepared to fly out. However, Chu Kuangren stopped him at that moment. Please wait. What's wrong, sect leader? Morong Xian was puzzled. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly, then took out 2 yin and yang rings and said, these contain a portion of the wood elemental essence and some treasures such as supreme elixirs. When you guys get out, find a place to refine them. We may have to separate for a while. Murongxian and Shang Qingshue's expressions changed when they heard Chu Kuangren's words. Sect leader. What do you mean? It's nothing much. You guys still need to hone yourselves after entering the Emperor's Road. With me protecting you, what's the point of honing yourselves? Murongxian and Shang Qingxue looked at each other. They knew that Chu Kuangren's decision to part ways with them was not just for this reason. Is it because of the orthodoxies behind the Forbidden Sky Prides? Shang Qingxue was smart enough to figure out what was going on. Chu Kuangren smiled. Just be careful. Alright, you guys can go now. Qingxue, let's go. Murongxian took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and turned to leave. He knew that with their current strength, they would only be a burden to Chu Kuangren. They would only make Chu Kuangren more worried and unable to unleash his full potential. The only thing they could do now was to improve themselves as fast as they could in the Emperor's Road. As more and more figures flew away, the number of cultivators in the paradise gradually decreased. When Chu Kuangren estimated that it was about time, he too turned into a stream of light and flew out of the paradise. Outside the Thousand Wonders paradise, the cultivators were still lingering around the place. I've obtained a Boundary Emperor Supreme elixir this time. It's not bad. What about you, Brother Lin? It's nothing much. It's just a few sage-grade treasures. I can't compare to you. Sigh, all I got was a useless sage weapon. Many people gathered together and discussed their gains from this trip to the paradise. Of course, most cultivators would not reveal all their gains. They would hide some of their gains even from those they were close to. However, that did not stop them from discussing enthusiastically. Just when the discussion was at its peak, Chu Kuangren suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The lively scene instantly quietened down. It's him, right? I heard that he's the one who took the biggest opportunity of fortune in the Thousand Wonders paradise, the entire spiritual chi vein. I heard that the vein even contains a huge amount of wood elemental essence. Oh my god, he's really daring. Even with our gains, we might not even be able to match up to his gains. That's right, that opportunity of fortune is just too terrifying. Not only that, I heard that his combat strength is so strong that even a few Forbidden Sky Prides could not do anything to him. Otherwise, how could he have monopolized the opportunity of fortune? Many people stared at Chu Kuangren and whispered among themselves. There were also some who looked at Chu Kuangren with intense greed in their eyes. After all, he had too many treasures on him. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. However, they did not dare to act rashly due to his strength. Chapter 556. The fact that Chu Kuangren had many treasures with him had long been known by the cultivators who entered the Thousand Strange Paradise. At that moment, his appearance had instantly attracted the attention of many people. Many cultivators wanted to take his treasures for themselves, but most of them dared not do so because of his strength. However, there were still some who were bold enough to do so. So you're Chu Kuangren. A white-robed young man slowly walked out, and beside him were a few other young men and women. Each of them had a domineering sage aura around them. It's them, the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain. A cultivator exclaimed. The Dragon Mountain referred to the Dragon Mountain Prefecture, and the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain were the 7 most outstanding young sky prides in the Dragon Mountain Prefecture. All 7 of them came from the Dragon Mountain, so they formed a group of sky prides known as the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain. All 7 of them were top-notch sky prides, and the leader of the group was a sky pride who was second only to the Forbidden Sky Prides. Rumor had it that if the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain attacked together, even the Forbidden Sky Prides would not dare to underestimate them. Of course, that was just a rumor, and no one knew whether it was true or not. However, it made the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain very famous. Chu Kuangren glanced at the white-robed young man and said, "What do you want?" The white-robed young man, who was the leader of the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain, looked at Chu Kuangren and said, I heard that you've occupied an entire spiritual chi vein in the Thousand Strange Paradise. Don't you think that your actions are a little too overbearing? I can do that because I have the strength. What about you? What do you want? Are you going to steal the treasures? Chu Kuangren said. That's what I was thinking. The leader of the Dragon Mountain sneered, and the few cultivators behind him also revealed their fighting stance. I really can't believe there are idiots like you all everywhere I go. Chu Kuangren shook his head. I've heard that you can fight a few Forbidden Sky Prides without losing, but I don't believe it. The Forbidden Sky Prides are so powerful that not many are a match for them in a one-on-one fight. Not many people in this world can survive their attacks, let alone the younger generation of cultivators. Then I can only say that your vision and strength have limited your imagination. You are a frog at the bottom of a well. You are too shallow. Hearing this, the eldest brother of Dragon Mountain frowned, and a cold look appeared in his eyes. I want to see who is the real frog at the bottom of the well. As soon as he finished speaking, he activated the spiritual power within his body, and a cold torrent of water energy gathered in the void. It then transformed into a series of water arrows that shot towards Chu Kuangren. However, when these arrows were 30 feet away from Chu Kuangren, they all shattered and turned into mist. How could this be? The Dragon Mountain chieftain's expression changed. He did not expect his attack to be so easily neutralized by Chu Kuangren. Help me! The Dragon Mountain boss shouted in a low voice. The cultivators behind him all stood behind him, accompanied by loud shouts. These people slapped their palms on the back of the Dragon Mountain's eldest brother, and poured their spiritual energy into his body. 7 different Dao runes fused within the Dragon Mountain eldest brother's body, forming an incomparably majestic force. Oh, a joint attack! Chu Kuangren revealed a playful smile on his face. The surrounding cultivators were also very surprised to see this. What a powerful force! No wonder the rumors say that the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain's attack together is comparable to the Forbidden Sky Pride. So that's how it is. However, can this really defeat Chu Kuangren? Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. The Dragon Mountain chieftain let out a low roar, and then pushed both of his hands horizontally. A violent surge of energy gushed out from his palms. This surge of energy was so majestic that it was like a torrential flood that destroyed everything in its path. Chu Kuangren, go to hell! A terrifying surge of spiritual energy gushed towards Chu Kuangren, but he stood still and did not move an inch. Idiot! Chu Kuangren raised his hand slightly, and a surge of spiritual power gathered in his palm. Then he casually slapped the void in front of him. The terrifying energy that erupted from the Dragon Mountain chieftain's eldest brother, and the other 6 cultivators, was instantly shattered by his gentle slap, and a horrifying spiritual power swept out. Boom! The 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain were immediately sent flying by this terrifying surge of energy. One after another, they spat out blood. Those who had a weaker cultivation level had their bones and tendons shattered on the spot, and their bodies exploded. How is this possible? The Dragon Mountain chieftain's eldest brother looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. That attack just now contained the combined energy of all 7 of them. He believed that even a Forbidden Sky Pride would not be able to come out unscathed. However, Chu Kuangren had shattered their combined energy with just a gentle slap and severely injured them. What kind of combat strength was this? Chu Kuangren's gentle slap had shocked the rest of the cultivators who harbored ill intentions to the point that they no longer dared to harbor any evil thoughts. If a gentle slap already had such power, how terrifying would it be if he unleashed his full strength? No one dared to imagine. Rumor has it that this person fought against several Forbidden Sky Prides and defeated them one by one. It seems that the rumor is true. This is too terrifying. I can't believe this person really has such power. This person is definitely the forbidden of all forbidden. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with only respect and fear left in their hearts. Chu Kuangren did not care about the 7 cultivators of Dragon Mountain. He walked straight ahead and was about to leave. However, at that moment, several extremely cold auras suddenly came from the distant sky. The terrifying Sword Dao aura locked onto Chu Kuangren. Oh, it's finally here. Chu Kuangren was not too surprised by the sudden arrival of the Sword Dao aura. A few sword rays flew over from the sky and landed in front of Chu Kuangren, turning into a few swordsmen with long swords in their hands. Following closely behind them were streaks of colorful sword gleams. The sword rays came one after another, surrounding Chu Kuangren from all sides. Many cultivators gulped at the sight. It's the swordsmen. This kind of aura means that they're the elders of the swordsmen. And the swordsman's swordsmen. There are so many of them. There must be at least 10,000 of them. Oh my God, it's rare for the swordsmen to make such a big move. It seems that they're all here to deal with Chu Kuangren. This is going to be interesting. The swordsmen were the top orthodoxy in the emperor's path. Since ancient times, not many dared to provoke the swordsmen, so they had never made any big moves. But today, they had mobilized a few elders and a large group of swordsmen to kill a young sky pride. This was something that had never happened before. Chu Kuangren, you destroyed the swordsman's Taoist clone and stole his opportunity of fortune. Today you must die here. A white-bearded swordsman elder in a gray robe said loudly. His body emanated an extremely scorching sword Dao aura, and his whole person was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. Chu Kuangren smiled. Why didn't Sword Taoist come himself? Is he so afraid that he doesn't even have the courage to face me? I don't need Sword Taoist to do anything to kill you. We're more than enough. Forget it. It doesn't matter if Sword Taoist comes or not. But is it just the swordsman? There must be other orthodoxies. Haha. A burst of laughter was heard as a ray of light flew over. Chapter 557. Haha. A burst of laughter filled the air, accompanied by an extremely powerful surge of spiritual power. A ray of light flew over and landed in front of Chu Kuangren. It was a white-haired old man in high spirits, and his body was suffused with a peerlessly overbearing aura. Chu Kuangren squinted. This aura far surpasses the average boundary emperor. An emperor? No, a boundary emperor that's infinitely close to an emperor? Good eye. It's the Bai family's senior elder, Bai Tianke. The old man, Bai Tianke, laughed and looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration. Although he was here to kill Chu Kuangren, that did not stop him from admiring him. A sky pride like him was too rare. Even the Bai family is here. Who else? The Wang family, the demonic tribe, and the nine-headed snakelet? Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and looked around. Every time he called out a name, the crowd could not help but tremble. Each of them was a top-notch orthodoxy in the emperor's path. Basically, no one dared to provoke them. Chu Kuangren, the swordsmen are right. You must die here today. An indifferent voice reverberated in the void. Suddenly, a large dark cloud surged in the distance. That dark cloud was formed by the accumulation of an extremely majestic demonic chi. Under that demonic chi was a single-horned demon with a pair of demonic blood-colored eyes that stared at Chu Kuangren with an extremely cold murderous intent. It's him, one of the demonic tribe's elders in the emperor's path, Balha. Just like Bai Tianke, this person's cultivation level is infinitely close to an emperor. He can even be considered the strongest demonic tribe emperor. Look, it's not just Balha. It was not until the dark cloud gradually approached that the crowd saw that behind Balha was a large group of well-equipped demonic soldiers, and a large group of ferocious demonic beasts. That was especially true of the three-headed hellhound beside Balha. Saliva trickled down the corners of its three heads as it stared at the cultivators below with a brutal look on its face. Any cultivator who made contact with its pair of blood-red eyes could not help but shiver. After Balha appeared with the group of demonic soldiers, a large five-colored ray of light appeared in the sky. With a cry, a multicolored peacock pierced through the clouds and flew over. On the peacock's back sat a woman dressed in gorgeous colorful clothes. The woman had a graceful and luxurious temperament. She wore a crown of pearls on her head, and every movement she made emitted a tyrannical spiritual energy fluctuation. I'm the matriarch of the Wang clan of the Emperor's Path. Chu Kuangren, if you stretch out your neck now, I'll let you die in one piece. The matriarch of the Wang clan said with an unquestionable tone. Behind her, Wang family cultivators walked out from the clouds one after another, their auras imposing. In this world, there is no one who can make me stretch out my neck to be killed. Do you think your Wang family is worthy? Chu Kuangren sneered. Then he looked around and scanned everyone with his sharp gaze. Is there anyone else who wants to take my life? After a while, no one responded. The cultivators who did not want to get involved had already retreated. Chu Kuangren, if you're willing to hand over the treasures in the spiritual Qi earth vein, perhaps we can let you off the hook. Or if you're willing, you can marry into the Bai family like Xiao Jingchen. I guarantee that no one will hurt you. What do you say? Bai Tianke suddenly said. The crowd was speechless. They did not expect the Bai family to offer such a condition to Chu Kuangren. However, it was not surprising since Chu Kuangren's talents were too shocking. If they could recruit him, it would be a great help to any orthodoxy. Marry into the Bai family? Haha, do you think those repulsive people from the Bai family are worthy of me marrying into their family? Old man, have you lost your mind? Please find a place to clean yourself first before you talk to me. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh out loud. Bai Tian's face sank when he heard that, and a cold murderous intent shot out from his eyes. In the crowd, Bai Hongyu heard that too. She was so angry that her whole body trembled. She glared at Chu Kuangren, wishing she could cut him into 1,000 pieces. She was also a lady of the Bai family. The repulsive people that Chu Kuangren was referring to undoubtedly included her. Chu Kuangren ignored Bai Tian's gloomy expression. He stared coldly at the cultivators from the various orthodoxies that surrounded him. The Wang family, Bai family, demonic tribe, and swordsman tribe are all famous ancient orthodoxies of the Emperor's path. Today you've joined forces to kill me. Heh, looks like you're all just unworthy of your name. Chu Kuangren, it's useless to talk about this now. Today we must kill you. The demonic tribe's Bahar said. Stopping the demonic realm from descending and stealing the opportunities of fortune from our sky prides. You and the demonic tribe are now mortal enemies. Chu Kuangren, you should know that treasures are a crime. Treasures may be great, but you must be alive to enjoy them. The swordsman tribe's elder sneered. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Chu Kuangren, you have no backing in the Emperor's path. How are you going to fight us? The Wang family's mistress said coldly. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a condescending gaze, as if she was looking at an ant that could be easily crushed. Backing? Backing? Ha. Chu Kuangren let out a long laugh, and a majestic surge of spiritual power suddenly erupted from his body. Terrifying Taoist rhymes also poured out and swept in all directions. Those who did not have a sufficient cultivation base were instantly swept away by the spiritual power and Taoist rhymes. The long swords in the hands of the swordsman tribe's cultivators were affected by Chu Kuangren's Taoist rhymes, and they trembled uncontrollably as if they were submitting to him in fear. Today, I shall show you what a backing is and what a backing is. As he let out a long roar, the aura on Chu Kuangren's body increased once again, and an even more terrifying Taoist rhyme seeped out of his body. In the sky, dark clouds gathered, thunder rumbled, and the majestic aura of the heavens shrouded the entire place. Chu Kuangren stood under the thunder, and rays of divine light emanated from his body. It was as if he was the supreme deity king who controlled the heavens and earth. I am the backing. I am my own greatest backing. Chu Kuangren's expression was indifferent as he looked at all the cultivators at the scene. At that moment, all the cultivators felt an indescribable pressure. Some of the cultivators could not even control their trembling bodies, and they immediately fell to the ground, losing their will to fight. Kill. Seeing that, the swordsman tribe elder roared and unleashed a ray of sword chi, initiating the battle. Behind him, the swordsman tribe cultivators also charged towards Chu Kuangren with their razor-sharp sword chi. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he lifted his arm, and a ray of blue lightning shot out from his body. It first shattered the sword ray unleashed by the swordsman tribe elder, and then it swam among the swordsman tribe cultivators. One by one, the swordsman tribe cultivators were crushed by the lightning ray, and they were sent flying with blood spewing out of their mouths. What the hell is that? What a terrifying power. Is there something inside that lightning ray? The lightning ray swam around the swordsman tribe cultivators, sending more than 10 of them flying before it finally arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. When the lightning ray dissipated, a crystal-clear azure guqin with a gorgeous design appeared in front of everyone. It was the emperor weapon, Spring Thunder. Chu Kuangren placed all 10 of his fingers on the guqin strings, and with a loud clang, a simple guqin note erupted with an incredibly terrifying power. The few swordsman tribe cultivators who were the first to get close to Chu Kuangren were sent flying by the Guqin note, and their bodies exploded. Chapter 558. An overbearing heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. The emperor weapon, Spring Thunder, hovered in front of him, and Guqin music shook the heavens and earth. The swordsmen, demonic cultivators, and other cultivators' expressions changed when they saw that. Emperor weapon Guqin music? Everyone be careful. Rumor has it that this person's musical Tao is extremely profound, and he once defeated the Guqin demon and the painted ghost. So what if that's the case? With so many people here today, he won't be able to escape death no matter how powerful he is. That's right. The swordsman elder stared at Chu Kuangren coldly and made the first move. This elder was a cultivator of fire-based sword Tao, so when he made his move, a scorching and domineering sword Tao aura surged out and instantly locked onto Chu Kuangren. A single slash of his sword was accompanied by a terrifying sea of flames that could burn the heavens and earth. The sea of flames contained a dense amount of sword qi that surged towards Chu Kuangren. 8 celestial demonic cords, boundless expanse. The first movement of the 8 celestial demonic cords was unleashed, and the boundless atmosphere instantly suppressed the invading sea of flames, keeping it 100 feet away from Chu Kuangren. The rest of the cultivators also made their moves. The sword qi of the swordsman, the demonic qi of the demonic tribe, and the ferocious roaring demonic beasts all charged towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren plucked the Spring Thunder Guqin with all 10 fingers, and the 8 celestial demonic chords continued to play. The terrifying Guqin music Taoist rhymes poured out like a majestic ocean. Wind and rain, golden bell, ambush from 10 sides. The Guqin music became louder and louder, and the impact formed by the sound waves sent the oncoming cultivators flying. Countless Guqin music transformed into sharp blades that swept out in all directions like a storm. Many cultivators were killed by that force. Even a sage ruler could not withstand it. Chu Kuangren stood still on the spot. Every time he moved his fingers, countless cultivators would die under his Guqin music. This tyrannical combat power instantly stunned the surrounding cultivators. Such mastery of the Zither Tao is simply unbelievable. In the Emperor's path, the few orthodoxies in Seven Chord City are undoubtedly the most proficient in musical Tao. But even those orthodoxies leaders do not have this level of attainment. How many more tricks does this guy have? The sound of the zither reverberated between heaven and earth. It was as if the only thing left in the world was the figure in white who was playing the zither. That person was playing the music of nature. His white robe was spotless, and he was surrounded by the sound of the zither. Wave after wave, it kept spreading out. It was an otherworldly and pleasing scene. However, outside the scene, countless cultivators were killed by the zither music and turned into a rain of blood. Beautiful and cruel. Sword incantation, fire meteor. The elder of the sword race hollered as the aura of the sword Tao on his body rose rapidly. With a slash of his sword, the sword qi transformed into a horrifying fireball in the void and smashed towards Chu Kuangren like a meteor. The power of this attack was comparable to that of a peak quasi-emperor. Even a forbidden prodigy might not be able to unleash such an attack. 8 celestial demonic cords engulfing 10,000 miles. Chu Kuangren plucked the Guqin strings with his fingers, and a ferocious sound wave instantly erupted and blasted onto the fiery meteor. Accompanied by a majestic bang, the meteor suddenly exploded. The dispersing energy shock wave caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. What are you guys waiting for? The elder of the sword race yelled at Balha, Bai Tianke, and the Wang family's mistress. These people could be said to be the strongest among those present. Initially, they had planned to let the others attack first while they observed from the sidelines to gauge Chu Kuangren's strength. However, they did not expect his musical Tao to be this high. As soon as the zither music was released, a large number of cultivators were either injured or killed. It was impossible for them to get close. Zither music attacks were the most suitable for group battles. Let's do it. Since we're already here, there's no need to hold back. If we let this person live, he'll only be a threat in the future. Bai Tianke then attacked as well. He was the only one sent by the Bai family this time, but his strength was considered the highest among those present. He stood in the air, and with a lift of his arm, spiritual power surged. An extremely dense Taoist rhyme erupted from his body, and formed into a giant seal in the void. It was one of the Bai family's emperor techniques, the heaven-worshipping seal. As soon as the heaven-worshipping seal landed, the surrounding void exploded, and a majestic shockwave swept out in all directions. Chu Kuangren was locked onto by the seal, and the surrounding space was instantly sealed. Double reverberation of heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren's 10 fingers plucked the strings, and the zither music Taoist rhyme became even more terrifying. It had entered a whole new realm. As the zither music echoed, the mountains and rivers trembled, and the heavens and earth resonated. Under the influence of such a powerful force, the heaven-worshipping seal was already shattered before it even landed. What terrifying zither music! Bai Tian's pupils shrunk. Blade of Oblivion. At that moment, Baoha also launched his attack. He held a long and narrow black saber in his hand, and with a single slash, a pitch-black saber ray instantly erupted and covered the entire sky. That slash was headed straight for Chu Kuangren. Upon seeing that, the Wang family's matriarch followed suit. She raised her hand, and a 5-colored radiance started to brew in her palm. 5 elements capturing technique. She unleashed a palm attack, and it turned into a giant colorful hand that carried a surge of 5 elements energy that could push everything in its path towards Chu Kuangren. Sword art flaming meteor. The swordsman elder attacked again, and a scorching and domineering flaming sword ray shot out like a meteor. Not only him, but the other swordsman elders also attacked at the same time. The sword rays that they unleashed were all top-notch boundary emperors. In the face of such an attack, almost no one in the entire Emperor Road would be able to withstand it. The violent energy turbulence and Taoist rhymes intertwined in the void, forming a beautiful colorful ocean that surged towards Chu Kuangren. All the cultivators stared intently at that scene. I don't think this B***starred can withstand it anymore. The same thought appeared in all the cultivators' minds at the same time. Meanwhile, sky prides like Bai Hongyu, Xiao Jingchen, and Tu Heng stared at Chu Kuangren with hope in their eyes. They could not wait for Chu Kuangren to die just like that. If he continued to live, the pressure on them would be too great. In other words, as long as Chu Kuangren was around, they would not have any hope of becoming an emperor. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Chu Kuangren, who was facing an attack that he had never seen before, slowly spoke with an indifferent expression. Final 8 celestial demonic chords, grand note of silence. The great Tao is the simplest, grand note of silence. An unimaginably powerful Guqin music Taoist rhyme erupted under the support of the emperor weapon, spring thunder. No one knew how to describe this Guqin music. All they knew was that this Guqin music had surpassed the enjoyment of the senses, and it went straight for their souls. It was a silent shock. However, when this unbelievably majestic Guqin music Taoist rhyme collided with the energy released by the cultivators, it turned into an earth-shattering explosion. Colorful energy collided in the air and exploded like fireworks. Shockwaves swept out in all directions, and countless cultivators were sent flying by the shockwaves. Chu Kuangren, the Wang family's matriarch, the swordsman elder, Bai Tianke, and the others were the first to bear the brunt of the impact. Chapter 559. The matriarch of the Wang clan, Baoha, the swordsman clan elder, Bai Tianke, and a few other boundary emperors who were close to becoming emperors were blasted away by the impact of the Guqin Taoist rhyme, and the collision of their respective energies. The terrifying energy even destroyed the ground tens of thousands of kilometers behind them. It was as if a natural disaster had passed through. Chu Kuangren was not unscathed by such an impact either. His body was blasted away, and his supreme sage body was shaken as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Although he was injured, he recovered in the next second with the help of his immortal body. Although his physical body was unscathed, he had expended a lot of spiritual power. He could only use the gluttonous devouring technique to refine the cultivator corpses around him. However, at his cultivation level, the gluttonous devouring technique, which was only a sage ruler technique, was outdated to him. Countless cultivators were refined and turned into spiritual power, but it was only a small amount. He was still a distance away from his peak state. Chu Kuangren, no matter how strong you are, how long can you last against so many people? The swordsman clan elder wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and snorted. The others stared at Chu Kuangren as well. They did not expect him to be able to withstand their combined attack. With such combat strength, none of them would be a match for Chu Kuangren in a one-on-one fight. For a Sky Pride to reach such a level of combat strength, it was something that they dared not imagine in the past. Heh, why don't you give it a try? Chu Kuangren stood in the air, surrounded by enemies, but his arrogance did not diminish. He was treating everyone in this world as if they were nothing. The matriarch of the Wang clan's expression darkened, and she took out an item. It was a 5-colored bell with an extremely gorgeous design. Mountains, rivers, and beasts were carved on it, and mysterious Taoist rhymes surrounded it. The 5-elemental mountain river bell. The cultivators present could not help but be surprised. The 5-elemental mountain river bell was one of the Wang clan's trump cards. It was an emperor weapon related to the 5-elemental Daos. This emperor weapon was extremely powerful. The moment it appeared, the surrounding void began to emit the 5-elemental radiance, illuminating all directions. At the side, the elder of the sword race took in a deep breath. Since the mistress of the Wang family has brought out such a trump card, our sword race shall not continue to hide it then. As he raised his hand, beams of golden light condensed in his palm. A golden longsword that exuded a thick emperor's aura suddenly appeared out of thin air. This was also a monarch weapon. Chu Kuangren, I'll show you the power of my swordsman's emperor weapon, the golden emperor sword. The swordsman tribe elder sneered. He then raised his hand and activated the golden emperor sword in his hand before he swung it at Chu Kuangren. A dazzling golden sword light flew out, as if it wanted to tear apart the heavens and earth, obliterating the mountains and rivers in all directions. The matriarch of the Wang family was not to be outdone. She let out a low shout and the giant bell above her shook. A deep and resounding bell sound instantly erupted. In the blink of an eye, the sound of the bell reverberated and the surrounding mountains and rivers crumbled. Surges of the 5 elements' energy swept towards Chu Kuangren in an overwhelming manner. In the hands of 2 emperors whose strength was infinitely close to the emperor realm, the power unleashed by the 2 emperor weapons was almost invincible. However, Chu Kuangren still looked calm and composed in the face of such an attack. Out of nowhere, a black armor had appeared on his body. That armor contained an endless ferocious chi and battle intent, and it was extremely powerful. It was the innate ferocious armor. Following that, a golden longsword appeared in Chu Kuangren's hand. The blade of the sword was surging with an endless amount of sharpness. Among the crowd, a cultivator of the Sima clan could not help but exclaim when he saw that emperor weapon. It's the emperor weapon Golden Palace. The emperor weapon Golden Palace was the emperor weapon of the Sima clan. During the battle at Skylake Mountain, the Sima clan's head wielded this sword to kill Chu Kuangren. However, he was killed by Chu Kuangren instead, and the sword eventually fell into Chu Kuangren's hands. All this while, Chu Kuangren had kept this emperor weapon in the sacred emerald sword case. With the help of the sword case, Chu Kuangren had long refined it. Let me show you what kind of power the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart can unleash with this emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren said calmly. In an instant, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's 3 Taoist physique transformations activated, and an extremely terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. That Taoist rhyme combined with the Golden Palace sword in his hand and resonated with it. A crisp and melodious sword chime echoed through the clouds and into the sky. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. With a single slash, Chu Kuangren unleashed the sword technique that he had been using ever since he started cultivating. With the emperor weapon, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and the supreme sage foundation level, the power of that sword ray was unparalleled. No one could describe how amazing that sword ray was. As the sword ray flashed past, it was as if everything between heaven and earth was about to be annihilated by it. The supreme sword chi shook the heavens and earth. The power of the 3 emperor weapons collided violently in the void, and the power this time was even more terrifying than before. However, it was obvious that the power of Chu Kuangren's sword Qi far surpassed that of the Wang clan's matriarch and the swordsman's elder. He had completely refined the emperor weapon, Golden Palace sword, and the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was already very compatible with it. On the other hand, although the swordsman's elder and the Wang clan's matriarch had emperor weapons with them, they had yet to gain the emperor weapon's recognition, and could not fully refine it. Hence, the power that they could unleash was limited. Moreover, Chu Kuangren's foundation was not weaker than theirs. Even with 2 emperor weapons, they could not withstand Chu Kuangren's attack. The majestic sword Qi swept out towards the Wang clan's matriarch and the swordsman's elder. It was not hard to imagine that if that sword strike landed on them, they would not be able to escape death no matter how high their cultivation levels were. At that moment, Bai Tianke took a step forward and took out a prismatic crystal. The crystal let out waves of dazzling white light, and a white prismatic Qi barrier instantly enveloped them. Amidst the explosion, the barrier and the sword Qi collided violently. The entire barrier trembled. Bai Tianke's face turned slightly pale. What a terrifying sword Qi. Oh, a defensive emperor weapon? Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Looks like you guys are willing to go all out just to kill me. I can't believe you guys brought 3 emperor weapons. No 4 of them. Sensing something, Chu Kuangren swung the golden fault sword to the side. With a loud clang, surges of Qi shot out. The golden fault sword in Chu Kuangren's hand collided with a dark red longsword. The longsword was surging with a terrifying surge of resentment Qi. There was even a strong surge of emperor's aura mixed within it. Obviously, it was also an emperor weapon, and the person who wielded it was Bahar. For emperor weapons, for cultivators who were infinitely close to becoming emperors, such a lineup was more than enough to kill an emperor. Now it was used to deal with Chu Kuangren. This is ridiculous. I can't believe something like this can happen. The spectating cultivators could not help but be speechless. The scene before them was one of the rarest in the emperor's path. The sword and the longsword vibrated at the same time, and Bahar and Chu Kuangren were both pushed back. Chu Kuangren, I've long heard that you have a few emperor weapons with you. Looks like it's true. Bahar stared at Chu Kuangren with greed in his eyes. The emperor weapons, Spring Thunder, Golden Fault Sword, Innate Ferocious Armor. By then, Chu Kuangren had already taken out 3 emperor weapons. Who knew if he still had other emperor weapons in his possession? Even the weaker ancient orthodoxies did not have such resources. Chapter 560. Kill him, and we'll split the opportunities of fortune with him. The swordsman elder said with a fiery gaze. Initially, they were only here to kill Chu Kuangren and the treasures in the spiritual Qi vein. However, they realized that the benefits they could obtain from killing Chu Kuangren were far beyond their imagination. The emperor weapons alone were more than enough for them to split among themselves. He may have a lot of emperor weapons, but how many of them can he wield alone? The 4 of us can wield 1 emperor weapon each, and we'll definitely be able to kill him. Baohe said. Chu Kuangren smirked when he heard their discussion. No one in this world can kill me. You flatter me. The Wang clan's mistress snorted and continued to attack Chu Kuangren with the 5 elements Mountain River Bell. However, at that moment, mysterious blue runes suddenly condensed in the sky. Endless dark clouds gathered, and the runes turned into lightning swords. Like a torrential downpour, they shot toward the cultivators of the orthodoxies. Oh no! The expressions of the Wang clan's mistress and the others changed. Countless lightning swords were unleashed, and many cultivators died on the spot. Chu Kuangren chuckled. I'm not going to play with you guys anymore. I'll pay you a visit when I'm free. The Wang clan's mistress and the others had powerful cultivation levels, and with the emperor weapons in their hands, it was not an easy task for Chu Kuangren to kill them. Instead of continuing the battle, it was better for him to leave first. Once he had refined the white spirit divine fruit and the earth vein's primordial essence, it would be easier for him to settle the score. If he wanted to leave, no one in this world could stop him. Oh no, he's leaving. The Wang clan's mistress' expression changed, and the others immediately reacted and tried to stop him. However, at that moment, a terrifying aura appeared in the sky. A rune that was more mysterious than the others was formed. Amidst the flashes of lightning, a ferocious lightning dragon suddenly emerged from the clouds. It was the Emperor-grade Thunder Talisman. This Thunder Talisman is not to be underestimated. Bai Tianke once again took out the prismatic crystal and activated the defensive Qi barrier to cover everyone. The majestic lightning dragon descended and smashed into the defensive barrier. The lightning energy that spread out instantly killed and wounded countless cultivators from the several orthodoxies. Only a few cultivators who were lucky enough to be inside the energy shield managed to survive. As for the others, none of them were spared. Seizing this opportunity, a mysterious spatial fluctuation appeared on Chu Kuangren's body, and he instantly disappeared. It was the space transportation technique that he had not used for a long time. Since the spatial structure within the Emperor's Road was different from the outside world, Chu Kuangren took a long time to adapt and analyze the space within. At this moment, he could finally use the space conveyance technique in this Emperor's Road. Damn it, it's gone. This is a spatial technique. He is a genius from the outside world. How can he use spatial techniques in the Emperor's Road? Damn it. The swordsman tribe elder, the Wang family's matriarch, and the others were so furious that their faces turned green. Their spiritual thoughts instantly surged and covered a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers as they searched for Chu Kuangren. However, since Chu Kuangren had already left, how could he let them find him so easily? Whether it was the teleportation range of his space conveyance technique or his concealment technique, the swordsman tribe elder and the others could not easily find him. After a fruitless search, the swordsman tribe elder and the others looked at the dead and injured cultivators around them, and could not help but fall silent. We have underestimated this person. Let's join forces and search for this person. We must not let him live. Otherwise, when the Emperor's Mountain opens in the future, with his talent, there's a high chance that he will become an emperor. That's right. We must not let this happen. The few orthodoxies had reached a consensus on dealing with Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was too much of a threat. As long as he was alive, they would not be able to live in peace. It's a pity that the emperors are restricted by the Emperor's Road, so they can't leave the ancestors' land to deal with Chu Kuangren. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let him leave so easily. Perhaps only the Heavenly Pardon Order can deal with this person. The Wang family's matriarch murmured. Upon hearing her words, the others' eyes lit up. Due to the restrictions of the Emperor's Road, the emperors of the ancestors' land could not leave the ancestors' land, let alone deal with the Sky Prides. The Heavenly Pardon Order was a treasure that could remove this restriction. As long as they had the Heavenly Pardon Order, the emperors could kill anyone and do anything they wanted in the Emperor's Road. The Heavenly Pardon Order can only be found in the barren forbidden area. It's time for the Sky Prides to explore it. If they're lucky enough, not only can they find the Heavenly Pardon Order, they might even have a chance to fight against Chu Kuangren. The swordsman tribe elder said. That's right. Aside from the core zone, the barren forbidden area's restrictions have all disappeared. It's time. The swordsman tribe elder and the others looked at the Sky Prides with anticipation. Meanwhile, Bai Hongyu, Xiao Jingchen, Tu Heng, and the others were excited when they heard that. The barren forbidden area is the legendary great opportunity of fortune of the Emperor's Road. We must enter it to find a way to fight against Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, on the path to becoming an emperor, a temporary lead is nothing. The one who laughs last is the one who laughs the best. The Sky Prides of the various restrictions had different thoughts, but they were all looking forward to the rumored barren forbidden area. The incident at the Thousand Wonders Paradise was over. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's name had spread throughout the Emperor's Road. Everyone knew that an incredible being had arrived at the Emperor's Road, one who could single-handedly defeat the combined forces of a group of forbidden Sky Prides. So much so that even a few ancient orthodoxies could not do anything to this person. Congratulations, host. You've drawn the legendary doctor's inheritance. After leaving the Thousand Wonders Paradise, Chu Kuangren took the time to draw a prize. Doctor's inheritance. This looks quite useful. Chu Kuangren then extracted the inheritance from it. In his mind, all the information about this inheritance and a large amount of knowledge related to medicine Dao suddenly appeared. Myriad medicine scroll, theory of weeds, 1,000 gold illustration, rootless water. Countless knowledge related to medicine Dao gushed into his mind, instantly shaping Chu Kuangren into a top-notch doctor. At the same time, this doctor's inheritance also included a large number of methods to utilize water qi. Every doctor had their own unique medical techniques, and the inheritance that Chu Kuangren had obtained required most of its medical techniques to be completed with water qi. TSK, fortunately I have the Transcendent Coalescence and the Empyrean Neptune's halberd, so I'm already good at manipulating water qi. Otherwise, I would have to learn another technique to manipulate water qi after obtaining this inheritance. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. Overall, this doctor's inheritance did help him to a certain extent. Alright, now I have another profession. Chu Kuangren shook his head and smiled. In addition to the alchemy master's inheritance that he had previously obtained, the combination of alchemy and medicine Dao, Chu Kuangren's ability to save people was no weaker than his combat ability. I can kill with one hand and live with the other. How many people in this world are as capable as I am? Chu Kuangren was in a good mood as he laughed. Then his figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 561. With a loud boom, a few sky prides were blasted away by a terrifying force. When the crowd looked closely, they saw Chu Kuangren hovering in midair with thousands of rays of divine light shining on his body like a supreme godly king. In an instant, everyone at the scene was shocked and dumbfounded. Who would have thought that besides the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, Chu Kuangren also has the infallible tormented physique and the transcendent coalescence Taoist physique? Inside a restaurant, a storyteller was narrating Chu Kuangren's stories in a vivid and colorful manner. The crowd below the stage listened with great interest, their eyes filled with admiration. Chu Kuangren single-handedly fought against 5 forbidden sky prides, and even emerged victorious. This was something that they did not even dare to imagine. Is it really as exaggerated as you say? Of course, some people were skeptical. After all, the rumored Chu Kuangren was too powerful. This little old man wouldn't dare to lie. Countless cultivators outside the Thousand Wonders Paradise have witnessed Chu Kuangren's strength. How could I make it up? The old storyteller smiled faintly. There were some female cultivators in the crowd, and one of them asked curiously, I heard that Chu Kuangren is very handsome, and few people in this world can compare to him. Is that true? The little old man smiled and said, I've seen Chu Kuangren before, and I can tell you with certainty that he's not just a person who can compare to him. He's like a celestial being, handsome, with sharp eyebrows and an extraordinary temperament. He's like a celestial being who has descended to the mortal world. That's too fake. How can anyone have such exaggerated looks? I never lie. You'll find out once you go out and ask around. Every cultivator who has seen Chu Kuangren has praised his looks, and the female cultivators who have seen him can't forget him either. The little old man said emotionally as he stroked his beard. Hearing his description, the eyes of the female cultivators were filled with yearning. It would be great if I could meet such a person. In the corner of the crowd, a person was calmly drinking. That person's face was covered with a faint spiritual light, and his face could not be seen clearly. He listened to the little old man's storytelling and chuckled from time to time. Although his behavior was a little strange, no one paid attention to him. And that person was none other than Chu Kuangren. After he left the Thousand Wonders Grotto Heaven, he wanted to find a place to settle down temporarily and refine the essence of the wood element meridian, as well as the white spirit divine fruit. Unknowingly, he had come here and came in to drink some wine. Coincidentally, he heard someone talking about his deeds, and sat down to listen for a while out of curiosity. I don't believe that Chu Kuangren is as exaggerated as you make him out to be. At this moment, a cold snort came from the crowd. A red-clothed woman said from the window with a disdainful look on her face. This woman was dressed in a fiery red robe. Her face was exquisite, and her skin was delicate. Her figure was curvaceous, and her black hair hung down to her waist. It turns out that the noble ladies of the Seven Emotions sect have come down for a drink. Sorry for the neglect. The innkeeper of the restaurant hurriedly went up to him with a flattering expression. Many people were surprised to hear his words. The Seven Emotions sect was one of the few ancient orthodoxies in the Emperor Road. The wine is not bad, but that storyteller keeps going on and on about how powerful that Chu Kuangren is. I'm starting to get annoyed, the red-clothed woman said with a frown. Throughout the day, she had lost count of how many times she had heard Chu Kuangren's name from her sect to the city. It was really annoying. He was just a man. What was there to brag about? Yes, I'll send this old man away now, the innkeeper said. Hey, every word I said is true. I heard that the Seven Emotions sect's maiden sage has also been smitten by Chu Kuangren. Hearing that, the red-clothed woman frowned. Wait a minute, what did you say just now? I said that the Seven Emotions sect's maiden sage has also been smitten by Chu Kuangren. Nonsense. Senior sister cultivates the emotionless Tao. How can there be a man in this world who can move her heart? Be careful, or I'll tear your mouth apart. The old man quickly covered his mouth and said, That's what the outside world is saying. Humph, they're just a bunch of idiots who only know how to spread rumors. How dare you ruin my senior sister's reputation? If you dare to talk about this matter again in the Seven Emotions sect's territory, I'll kill you with one palm. The red-clothed woman glared at the old man and said, Yes, I won't do it again. As for the rest of you, you're not allowed to talk about this matter anymore. If I hear you, you'll have to bear the consequences. Understood. The crowd quickly agreed. D*eminent. I'm so angry. How dare he tarnish my senior sister's reputation like this? That Chu Kuangren better not let me see him, or I'll beat him to death. The red-clothed woman was so angry that she took a few gulps of wine. Not far away, Chu Kuangren took a sip of wine gloomily. He felt like he had been implicated. Nothing had happened between him and Lung Ningyu. Yet this red-clothed woman was now targeting him. But I didn't expect the Seven Emotions sect to be nearby. If they really have something to do with those scrolls, perhaps it's worth paying them a visit. Chu Kuangren murmured. Lung Ningyu had mentioned before that his Raging God Fist was very similar to the Emperor techniques of the Seven Emotions sect, and he had obtained this Raging God Fist from a scroll. He suspected that the Seven Emotions sect had similar scrolls as well. If these scrolls were combined, it would form a very powerful cultivation technique. That was worth Chu Kuangren's attention. There's no harm in paying them a visit. Who knows, there might be unexpected gains. Chu Kuangren thought to himself, and decided to postpone the refinement of the white spirit divine fruit and the earth vein essence for now. At that thought, Chu Kuangren glanced at the red-clothed woman. He hoped that he would not bump into this arrogant woman when he went to visit them. He did not want to cause any trouble. Although he was not afraid of the Seven Emotions sect, there was no need for him to make enemies everywhere. Waiter, bill please. After Chu Kuangren paid for the wine, he turned around and left the restaurant. The Seven Emotions sect was located in a mountain range. At the end of the mountain range was a towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. It gave off a sense of loneliness and was very eye-catching among the other mountains. This mountain was where the Seven Emotions sect was located, and it was called the Seven Emotions Peak. Soon, Chu Kuangren arrived at the foot of the Seven Emotions Peak. Before he could officially enter, a few rays of light flew towards him and turned into a few disciples. Halt, this is the Seven Emotions sect. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. The few disciples looked at Chu Kuangren with caution in their eyes. The spiritual light on Chu Kuangren's face dissipated, and he took out the jade token that Lung Ningyu had given him in the past. He said, I'm here to visit Brother Lung. Brother Lung? One of the disciples was slightly stunned. He then took the jade token from Chu Kuangren, and his expression changed. This is the Maiden Sage token. The Maiden Sage token was held by the Seven Emotions sect's Maiden Sage. It was a symbol of status. Of course, this token was useless to outsiders. Otherwise, Lung Mingyu would not have given it to Chu Kuangren so easily. However, the disciples were shocked that Chu Kuangren had the maiden sage token that Lung Mingyu always carried with her. What was his relationship with the maiden sage? Chapter 562. Why do you have the maiden sage token? Who are you? One of the disciples could not help but ask. My name is Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren? The disciples' expressions changed again when they heard that. If one were to ask who was the most famous person in the Emperor's path, it would undoubtedly be Chu Kuangren. Even the forbidden sky prides were no match for Chu Kuangren, and the ancient orthodoxies were able to easily repel him. Not many people in the Emperor's path could compare to Chu Kuangren's achievements. Please wait for a moment. I'll inform the maiden sage. One of the disciples took the maiden sage token and disappeared in a flash of light. Chu Kuangren was not in a hurry as he waited on the spot. However, not long after, footsteps could be heard behind Chu Kuangren. At the same time, a strong smell of alcohol filled the air. This aura. Chu Kuangren looked behind him with a strange expression. He saw that the red-robed lady who threatened to beat him up in the restaurant earlier was approaching the mountain gate with a flushed face and a drunken hiccup. The smell of alcohol on her made people want to avoid her. Just how much did this guy drink? Chu Kuangren could not help but take 2 steps back. However, after he took a step back, the red-robed lady's eyes lit up when she saw him. She walked up to him and hooked her arm around his shoulder. She then lifted his chin and said drunkenly, "Oh, I didn't know there was such a handsome young man in the 7 Emotions sect. Isn't he better than that Chu Kuangren?" Chu Kuangren's mouth twitched as he pushed her hand away and took 2 steps back. "Oh, young man, you're quite shy. Which lineage are you from? Tell me, I'll take care of you from now on." The red-robed lady smiled. Her interest was piqued, and she tried even harder to tease Chu Kuangren. The drunken lady was very different from the spoiled girl Chu Kuangren saw in the inn. She looked more languid now. "Senior Sister Red Moon, this Taoist is not from the 7 Emotions sect. He's here to look for the maiden sage." "Looking for Senior Sister? Stop joking. Other than that idiot from the swordsman, who else would look for Senior Sister?" The red-robed lady, who was Red Moon, waved her hand with a stop-joking expression. "He's Chu Kuangren," the disciple said. "Who is he? Say that again." "Chu Kuangren," the disciple repeated. Chiyu took a deep breath and began circulating his spiritual energy, quickly evaporating the alcohol in his body. Amidst the rising smell of alcohol, Red Moon's eyes became more and more awake. Her lazy look disappeared as she stared at Chu Kuangren and sneered. "You're the one who tarnished Senior Sister's reputation, aren't you?" "This has nothing to do with me. Tarnishing Senior Sister's reputation, you deserve a beating." Without another word, Red Moon immediately made his move. He raised his hand and unleashed a punch. His spiritual power, which was mixed with the smell of alcohol, swept towards Chu Kuangren. The power wasn't great, and it was more like a test. Just as the fist energy was about to land on Chu Kuangren's body, his figure suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Red Moon's punch hit empty air. "Oh, a spatial technique, interesting." Red Moon's spiritual thought gushed out, and soon locked onto Chu Kuangren's location. He was right above her head. Again. Another punch was thrown out, but Chu Kuangren did not even bother to look at it. His figure once again disappeared from the spot. "You're so good at hiding." Red Moon frowned. This time, she channeled her spiritual power, and an overbearing Taoist rhyme instantly erupted, enveloping the space around Chu Kuangren. Heart-rending claw. As soon as she spoke, a great sorrow intent erupted from Red Moon's body. She clawed at the void as if she was going to tear it apart. 5 claw energies streaked across the void, and landed on Chu Kuangren. Oh, it's a sorrowful intent. Chu Kuangren felt a heart-wrenching pain from his opponent's claw attack. Evidently, this was a cultivation technique that was related to emotions. Not only that, but when his opponent displayed this technique, he felt his heart palpitate. That feeling told him that this cultivation technique came from the same source as his own heart-piercing finger, Heaven's morning palm, and Raging God's fist. "It seems like I made the right decision to come here." Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Then a spatial fluctuation appeared. Chu Kuangren broke free from Red Moon's energy seal and disappeared once again. With Red Moon's cultivation level, she was still far from being able to seal him. What? Where is he? Red Moon's expression changed as she looked for Chu Kuangren everywhere. Here. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's voice came from behind her. She instinctively turned around and unleashed a palm attack. However, just as she unleashed her palm attack, it was shattered by an even more terrifying force, causing her to involuntarily take a few steps back. By the time Red Moon stabilized her body, 2 fingers were already pressed against her throat. Sharp sword chi circulated at the fingertips, cutting off a strand of her silky hair. Chiyu gulped as cold sweat dripped from his forehead. She knew very well that if Chu Kuangren wanted to, he could not only cut off her silky hair, but also her head. If you attack again, I'll have to fight back. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Beside him, a few 7 Emotions sect disciples' expressions changed as they took out their weapons and were about to step forward to help. Stand down. However, Red Moon coldly yelled and ordered the disciples to step back. Are you stupid? Even I'm no match for him. What's the use of you? Chu Kuangren put down his hand and said, I came to visit with no ill intentions. As for the rumors in the outside world, it has nothing to do with me. No matter what, my senior sister's reputation has been tarnished because of you. Red Moon then looked at Chu Kuangren from head to toe and muttered, You really are as good as the rumors say. You really are good looking. The innocent are innocent. No matter what the outside world says, it doesn't affect me. Red Moon, you shouldn't make things difficult for Brother Chu because of this. At that moment, an indifferent voice came from behind them. All they saw was Lung Ningyu walking in the air. Her temperament was cold and otherworldly, and her expression was as cold as ice. Senior sister, you're here. I'm just trying to help you vent your anger, right? You're too reckless. If Honorable Teacher finds out, he'll definitely punish you. It's fine. I'll just hide behind you. Honorable Teacher won't bear to hit you. Red Moon smiled. It seemed like she had a good relationship with Lung Ningyu. Lung Ningyu seemed to be a little helpless towards Red Moon, and ignored him. Brother Chu, how have you been? Lung Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren. Her indifferent eyes had a slight change in them. These days, whenever she returned and meditated, Chu Kuangren's figure would always appear in her mind. She could not understand why. She had only seen him twice, so why was she unable to forget him? Was it because he had saved her life before? Red Moon looked at Lung Ningyu and then at Chu Kuangren. She had a thoughtful look on her face. Could it be that senior sister's heart has been moved? Oh my God, this is bad. Red Moon was so shocked by this discovery that she almost bit her tongue. Brother Lung, I've been invited here. Please come in. Honorable Teacher, and the others are already waiting for you inside. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and followed Lung Ningyu into the 7 Emotions sect. Is he the Chu Kuangren who has been the talk of the Emperor's path lately? He looks really extraordinary. But other than being a little more handsome than me, I don't see anything special about him. Can he really defeat the Forbidden Sky Prides? I wonder what this person is doing here at the 7 Emotions sect. Along the way, many people were secretly observing Chu Kuangren curiously. Chapter 563. Inside the Grand Hall of the 7 Emotions sect. The current sect leader of the 7 Emotions sect, Cold Moon Fairy, was waiting for Chu Kuangren with a curious look in her eyes. Is he the legendary Sky Pride that escaped from the 4 ancient orthodoxies, the Swordsman, the Demons, the Bai clan and the Wang clan? I wonder what kind of person he is. Cold Moon Fairy murmured. Not long after, she saw Lung Ningyu, Red Moon, and the others walking towards the Grand Hall. Behind Red Moon and Lung Ningyu was a white-robed young man. The young man had black hair and a white robe. He was handsome and had a faint smile on his face. His every movement had an otherworldly aura. It was as if he was a celestial being who could ascend to heaven at any time. A hint of amazement appeared in the Cold Moon Fairy's eyes. She had seen her fair share of handsome men in her life, and there were even more handsome men who pursued her when she was younger. The queue could stretch from the entrance of the Seven Emotions sect all the way to the Emperor Mountain. However, none of those handsome men could compare to Chu Kuangren. It turned out that such an otherworldly man really existed in this world. If someone like Chu Kuangren had pursued her in the past, she would not have been single until now. The Cold Moon Fairy sighed. At that thought, she suddenly felt a surge of heat rising from her lower abdomen. Cold Moon Fairy frowned. It can't be. We've only just met and the fire poison is already showing signs of acting up. This man is too evil. She channeled her spiritual power to suppress the fire poison in her body. Meanwhile, Lung Ningyu and Red Moon had already brought Chu Kuangren into the Grand Hall. Chu Kuangren glanced at the Cold Moon deity and was surprised to see the redness on her face that had just receded. What happened? Red Moon's expression changed slightly. Honorable teacher, are you all right? Lung Ningyu's expression did not change much, but there was still a questioning look in her eyes. I'm fine. Cold Moon Fairy waved her hand and looked at Chu Kuangren with a smile. Brother Chu, you've come from afar. Sorry for not welcoming you. Cold Moon Fairy, you're too kind. As he spoke, Chu Kuangren had already activated his Eye of Revelation to secretly observe Cold Moon Fairy's condition. The Cold Moon Fairy is a peak quasi-emperor, who specializes in the Tao of emotions. She is poisoned by the fire desire poison, and often suffers from the pain of being burned by the poisonous fire. Chu Kuangren's eyes were filled with surprise. Fire desire poison? He didn't expect the Cold Moon Fairy to be poisoned like this. No wonder Lung Ningyu asked him for the heavenly ice python's horn. That horn was a cold-attributed treasure that could be used to restrain the fire desire poison. I've heard from Ningyu that fellow Taoist Chu has an emperor art that can induce emotions. I wonder if you can show it to me. Cold Moon Fairy didn't stand on ceremony and asked directly. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and did not bother about the fire desire poison anymore. It was obviously a private matter, so it was inappropriate for him to bring it up. He raised his hand and activated the Taoist rhyme of the Raging God Fist. A wave of anger manifested and intertwined in the void, turning into a black fist mark burning with anger. The Cold Moon Fairy's eyes lit up when she saw the fist mark. This energy is indeed the cultivation technique recorded in that scroll. So the Seven Emotions sect has that scroll too. I wonder how many of them do you have? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. How many do you have then, Brother Chu? The Cold Moon Fairy asked with a smile. 3 of them. Chu Kuangren answered honestly without hiding anything. The Cold Moon Fairy's eyes lit up when she heard that. I didn't expect you to have 3 of them. Looks like you're quite lucky, Brother Chu. The Seven Emotions sect has 5 of them. The Cold Moon Fairy answered honestly. Many of the Seven Emotions sect's disciples were out in the world. So many people knew about their emperor arts. There was no need for the Seven Emotions sect to hide it from Chu Kuangren. Things like this could be easily found out with a little investigation. 5 of them, plus the 3 I have, that's 8 of them. Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. There were a total of 9 scrolls, and when combined, it was an incredibly powerful cultivation technique that surpassed all the emperor arts that were known in the firmament star. That kind of method was too mysterious. Chu Kuangren even suspected that it might be a cultivation technique that was related to immortals. If he could gather all of them, it would be a great help to him. Initially, he only had 3 scrolls with him, and he did not know how long he would have to wait to gather all of them. However, if he added the 5 scrolls that the Seven Emotions sect had, he would be halfway through the process. All that was left was the last scroll. I'm sure the Seven Emotions sect wouldn't want to miss out on these 3 scrolls. Cold Moon Fairy, I'll be straight to the point. I'm willing to exchange these 3 scrolls with the Seven Emotions sect for the rest of the scrolls. What do you think? Chu Kuangren said. He already knew the emperor arts on the scrolls anyway, so the scrolls themselves were not important anymore. These emperor arts are related to the foundation of the Seven Emotions sect. I'll have to discuss this with the elders in the sect. The Cold Moon Fairy smiled and said to Lung Ningyu. Ningyu, Brother Chu has come from afar. Why don't you bring him around for a while? All right. Lung Ningyu nodded and left with Chu Kuangren. Only Red Moon and the Cold Moon Fairy were left in the Grand Hall. Looking at Chu Kuangren's departing figure, the cold moon deity could not help but lament. I didn't expect such an extraordinary man to exist in this world. Just by looking at him, I almost fell in love with him and got burned by the fire poison. Beside her, Red Moon was a little embarrassed. Honorable teacher, you're the sect leader of the 7 Emotions sect. Mind your image. What can I do? This damn fire poison is just like that. I can't even fall for it. If there's anything to blame, it's Chu Kuangren's too good looking. The cold moon fairy pouted and said. I really can't refute that. Red Moon was speechless too. Then, she thought of something and told the cold moon fairy about Lung Ningyu's strange behavior. After listening to Red Moon's story, the cold moon fairy's eyes lit up. You're saying that Ningyu might have fallen for him? Yes, I can't say for sure, but it seems like it. Red Moon was a little worried. That's a good thing. The cold moon fairy's face was filled with joy. This made Red Moon a little confused. Honorable teacher, how is this a good thing? Senior sister cultivates the path of forgetfulness. Once she falls in love, it'll have a huge impact on her path of cultivation. The most important thing about the path of forgetfulness is the word forgetfulness. However, Ningyu is born with little emotions. She has never experienced true love before. Since she has never experienced it before, how can she forget about it? This is also the reason why her path of forgetfulness has never been able to reach full mastery. However, if she can really fall in love with someone this time and then forget about them, then her path of forgetfulness will truly reach full mastery. An incomplete path of forgetfulness could already create a forbidden sky pride. If she could reach full mastery of the path of forgetfulness, then Lung Ningyu's future achievements would be limitless. This was also the reason why the cold moon fairy was so happy. TSK, I thought there's no man in this world who can move Ningyu's heart. This Chu Kuangren is a good choice. At the thought of Chu Kuangren, the fire poison that the cold moon fairy had suppressed with great difficulty seemed to burn again. How troublesome. Honorable teacher, that Daoist Li should be here soon. This time, senior sister brought back the celestial frost python's corpse. Perhaps he really has a way to remove the fire poison in your body. Perhaps, but to be honest, I really don't want to invite him here. The cold moon fairy sighed helplessly. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.